Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
All right, we might want to do a take two.
Oh, yeah? What happened?
There is some crazy humming in the background there. It
Oh, really?
makes you I can barely even hear what you're saying. And I don't want you to have to edit it out the entire time because it's gonna sound like.
Yeah, that would be better. Is it better right now?
Hold on, say something right now.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's better now.
Cool. All right, I'll try it again. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
You changed it up there. I like that. You added in the fantasy basketball.
We got to lead with what we know, and the people need to know that it's a fantasy basketball podcast.
All right, we're sounding official nowadays. It's impressive.
You know, we got to step our game up this year. Coming in the season, we might be looking for a new theme song. Maybe some sound effects. I doubt we're gonna sound effects. It seems a little cliche, but we'll see.
Oh, plus, the listeners will miss out on all my great sounders I make up on the fly.
Yeah, I feel like people like that much more than they actually like a professional sounding podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's been a very uneventful couple weeks for the first time this year for the NBA. Not really much has gone on. Kyrie hasn't been traded. Niko Mirotic and Nerlens Noel are still not signed. What's going on? I don't know what to do with myself without a constant feed of NBA news.
I wrote this article, and I was deathly afraid the entire time. All right, it was the best remaining free agents available.
And you were worried that they're all just gonna
20 best available. So it took me a while, and I was worried the whole time that someone was gonna sign and ruin it. Just as I finished it, and that was a week ago, and it's still perfect content. You can still read it, and it would still be 100% right. I'm very surprised about that.
It's the longest standing best free agents article of all time. Never has there been a here are the best free agents, and that stayed relevant for more than 2 weeks.
It's true, and there's some really good players still out there. That's what's crazy. I mean, you got Mason Plumlee, got Nerlens Noel, Niko Mirotic, JaMychal Green, Tony Allen. I mean, there's still some quality vets out there, man.
I'm not really sure what's going on. I wonder if, obviously the market dried up and these teams are just going, hey, we're gonna lowball you. No one's trying to buy you, so deal with it.
Well, and what's crazy too is a lot of teams don't have the roster spot, so they have to actually, if they're gonna sign one of these guys, they have to cut someone with a guaranteed contract, or they're so far over the salary that the most they can offer is the veteran minimum. So some of these guys are going to get totally screwed, and some of these restricted guys are going to be better off playing on that $4 million qualifying offer and then going back out next year and trying to get more money.
It's wild what a difference a year makes with the crazy contracts that came out last year. A lot of teams still hurting for that. And I hear a lot of crap. There's a lot of nonsense on Twitter about, is cap space going to start at the power forward this year? Oh man, what a great asset cap space is. And I keep saying, go ask Portland if they'd like to trade for cap space, because I think they would.
Well, and here was the dumb financial part about last summer's offseason is you always want to get a player at their market value. Just because you have the money to spend doesn't mean you should spend it. And a lot of teams got caught because now the salary cap's coming lower than what they thought it was going to be. And those horrendous contracts. I mean, and we're not even talking about giving Mozgov the $15 million, which was obviously not a good decision.
So
but even guys like Alan Crabb and Tyler Johnson, who got overpaid based on the production they were giving, those contracts are hamstringing teams now.
They look, those contracts look really, really bad. And actually, we're gonna get into talking about at least one of those teams here in the next few. But if you haven't been listening, the last episode, everybody, we're doing our team previews for this year. Last week we covered Golden State, the Spurs, Toronto, the Bucks, the Wizards, the teams that really didn't have a lot of turnover. But this go round, we're going to get a little bit deeper. We're going to start going to the teams that had at least a few assets move around or a few new players. The more interesting stuff will be coming up later in the season. And we're also working on our rankings. How are your rankings going right now?
They're going.
That's a good way of describing it.
Nothing too surprising yet, I would say, but it's always kind of, for me, I kind of try to do like a team and a team and a team and a team and a team, and then kind of throw it all together at the end. And so that's usually when I really catch the surprises.
Yeah, I actually take a different approach. I'm not a huge fan of rankings. I like to tier my guys, and especially if you're doing head to head, like I really don't recommend rankings. With Roto, I would recommend rankings because you can kind of gauge which one of those guys are better in 9-cap, but you still got to go with who you draft and how you draft. And we're gonna do some draft strategy podcasts coming up in September. We're gonna have a couple special guests. Even you excited about that?
Oh, of course I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's funny. I'll say this to people. I usually work so hard on my rankings and projections, and then like when it comes to my draft, I kind of rip them up after the first 2 rounds if it's a snake draft, and like probably like 5 minutes in the auction.
I usually stick with mine in an auction, but in the snake draft they go right out the window.
Oh man, see, I just know who I want, and I know kind of what team I'm trying to build, and so it's like, I don't know, like I spend all the time doing it, and then I guess they're just like in my mind, so like I very rarely ever even reference them. I'm just kind of like going with what I know.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about strategy. You can kind of tell that fantasy basketball is starting to ramp up a little bit. You're seeing bits and pieces of people's rankings, and the schedule just came out, and so the NBA is coming up soon.
And at some point, let's talk about that. The schedule actually kind of changed things a little bit for head-to-head leagues in the sense that there's not too many instances where the schedule is going to make a huge difference this year.
There's a less discrepancy, and that's why I kind of don't like head-to-head is because you can have one team that plays legitimately like 4 to 5 to 6 more games than another team, and it swings an entire week when it's really not your fault that the schedule fell that way. And I like that that's the new schedule kind of evens out the weeks just a tad bit better.
And I think that's kind of the goal, right? I mean, you guys hear all the narratives about the resting of the stars and all that. So, I mean, that's what they're shooting for.
And that's legit. The players play too many games, and I'd rather see a healthy playoffs than end up paying money to go see the Spurs and I have to deal with their B squad.
Well, and I mean, nobody wins in that situation, right? Like, if you paid the good money to go to the game, you want to see every player. So no one wins in that situation.
Yeah, and I think the league's going to come down. It's like if you have a national TV game, you're going to play your guys, and that's fair, I think. Luckily, the Chicago Bulls, well, number one, they don't have any stars to play, and number two, they don't have any. They have one single national televised game on ESPN.
I thought for sure that was going to be your lead in, that they're going to buy out Dwayne Wade.
That's the word on the street, but I believe they are going to play they got nothing else to do, right? Lousy Garpax in that front office, and their number one goal is being cheap, so they're going to wait Dwayne Wade out. They're going to see how long it takes for him to want to strangle himself playing on this terrible Bulls team and, take half of his paycheck or whatever.
Serious question. If they get rid of Dwayne Wade, do they have a guard that plays minutes on another NBA team, especially one that's competitive?
If you're going to count Zach LaVine as a 2 guard, yes.
Zach LaVine, I'm talking about like on opening night, because I don't think LaVine's going to be healthy on opening night.
I don't think he is either. No.
I didn't think so. That's what's crazy. That their opening night, like if you're projecting just their opening night and you're going to say Dwayne Wade is not a part of it, that entire guard rotation and even the wings looks ugly, my friend.
Hold on. Don't throw Paul Zipser under the bus just yet.
Zipser and I think Denzel Valentine might be all right for fantasy. He looks like he's going to get a lot of minutes.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do fantasy wise with them and Atlanta, and those are the ones that are kind of throwing me for a loop in my rankings. I'm just looking forward to getting that number one pick next year for the Bulls. So good luck. Be the worst team you could possibly be, and it sounds like the Bulls are going to be.
I could tell you some stuff about that draft, but I'll save that for a later date.
Yeah, let's save that. Let's get into it. Let's get through these teams. We got a lot to go. We really haven't got through. We got 25 more teams to go.
Hey man, don't put any pressure on me. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, well, let's get through 25 of them tonight. I doubt that's going to happen. We'll probably get through way less. Where do you want to start? You want to start in Miami?
Let's do it. The Heat, always an interesting team.
The Heat are kind of one of those teams where none of the players themselves, like the names, aren't going to stick out in a draft. So like I kind of like some of these guys. Outside of Hassan Whiteside, a lot of the players on their team are guys that really you have to kind of be knowledgeable about the NBA to get excited about. So a lot of these guys go for under their actual draft value, and those are the types of teams that I kind of like.
Oh, I think that's what us guys are always shooting for, right? Just a little crack in the market there, a little chink in the armor.
Yeah, you really want to find value. If you don't want to draft someone at their ceiling, and I doubt really any of these guys other than Whiteside are going to be drafted at their ceiling. I don't see that happening.
Let's talk about Mr. Whiteside a little bit, shall we?
Yeah, let's go right into it.
So relatively speaking, I suppose I'm looking for more of a round value or part of round value. Where are you going with Mr. Whiteside this season?
So I play a lot of Roto, and Mr. Whiteside is not that great for Roto leagues, but Hassan, a lot of people are going to say he took a step back last year, but I don't see it that way. I think he played about as good as he's going to play. He averaged 14 rebounds a game, which was pretty absurd. His blocks were down from the year before. He only had 2 blocks this year when he was approaching 4 blocks in the season beforehand, which is quite frankly insane. With a kind of increased load with no Chris Bosh, no Dwayne Wade, I think this was kind of to be expected, and I really don't see him doing anything terribly different this year than he did last year.
I'm with you in that sense. What worried me is the blocks were not only down from the crazy season, right? I don't think anyone expected him to get 4 blocks or 3.7 like he did.
A few people in the drafts that I were in expected him to get 4 blocks from when he was taken in the first round.
Well,
a few of these drafts.
A few people in the drafts you were in had a few too many drinks. Okay.
Well, that's in all the drafts of it.
So he averaged 2.5 the year before, and that's kind of where I was expecting him, and he only ended up getting 2.1, which was a little bit of a disappointment, but the overall numbers weren't. The problem, and maybe it's not a problem, right? Whiteside is like really good in like 4 categories and really not good in 4 categories if you play in an 8-category league, in the sense that he's not a good free throw shooter. He gets you, I mean, the steals are okay, but you're wanting a little more. He gives you like almost no assist and exactly no 3-pointers. So
and his steals are not great either. They're not. He doesn't break that 1 steal mark.
That's what I mean. So he's kind of like a 4 good and 4 bad category guy, which always makes me a little hesitant to pick him. In the sense that I've got to like fill the buckets then, right? Like I've got to make up for his deficiencies a lot. I always feel like
he's an acquired taste, and he's really way more valuable in head to head. But in Roto, he does have standard league value simply because of his absurd amount of rebounds, and his free throws are not great, but they're also not DeAndre Jordan bad or Andre Drummond bad. But that's who you would equate Hassan Whiteside to, those 3 guys.
Yeah, they're not in the 40% range. I mean, it's in the 60% range, which at the amount of attempts he takes, which is 4.6 a game, it's somewhat difficult to bounce back from, but it's not impossible, I guess. Those other 2, it's impossible, I think.
It's around a Rudy Gobert-esque type of line. Let's throw that out there. Who would you rather have in a head-to-head league You're obviously punting a couple categories, and these would be the guys you would go around. And I think in some of the podcasts coming up in September, I think we're going to be doing a couple of those theoretical. If I drafted this person in the first round, what does the rest of my draft look like? Kind of podcasts. But you got these three guys on the board. Beginning of the second round. Gobert, Whiteside, DeAndre Jordan. How do you rank those guys head-to-head league?
Give me Gobert, then give me Whiteside, then give me DeAndre Jordan.
Right down the list. All right. I mean, I think you can't go wrong with either any of those three guys if you're trying to do a punt, free throw type of build. I almost would maybe consider Whiteside over Rudy Gobert. Just maybe. I think Whiteside does have the ability to get a few more points. His blocks aren't significantly worse than Rudy Gobert. But I'd put DeAndre Jordan as a strong third.
I actually think I'm with you on that. I actually think Gobert might take it a little step forward this season in the sense that Hayward's gone and they maybe ask him to do a little bit more, and he might kind of have the Whiteside-ish season of last year and this season. And
well, that's actually kind of what I worry about. Whiteside was on track to be, a top 10 player after his breakout season, but then once the offense started revolving around him and there was a lot more ability for teams to focus on him, he kind of took this step back last season. And Rudy Gobert could be in a similar situation.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, he took a step back in the sense that he was 7th, and now last season he was 24th on per game values, but in the sense that like he performed over his head and then he just stepped back to where he was supposed to be. And the categories that he lost in, he made up for in other categories. And I kind of see Gobert being the same way, that I think Gobert is going to kind of be, I honestly think they're both in a 12-team league, probably like late second round values.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like that position for both of them. I punt around, usually when I do a head-to-head and we're getting a little into strategy, I punt based on my second round pick. And so the first round, and this year I feel like there's enough first rounders to really go around. Like there's a ton of great players in the first round. So my second round pick becomes, there's obviously a good guy, but he's deficient in something. Let's punt off of that.
I'm with you there.
Let's see what else happened with the Miami Heat. They added Kelly Olynyk and AJ Hammonds, if you care about that. They drafted Bam Adebayo, and they lost Josh McRoberts, and obviously Chris Bosh, who I hope the best of health. Chris, you know what? Chris Bosh, never hated that guy, even though I hated the Heat for a very long time. And they really re-signed basically everybody back. James Johnson and Dion Waiters getting fairly good contracts. The big addition to this roster is, I guess, Kelly, from a fantasy standpoint, Standard League is Kelly Olynyk. Do you see him playing enough minutes to be Standard League relevant next year?
I don't think they're going to have a choice. I don't think, especially at the beginning of the season, they're not going to want to play Bam a ton. And I don't think they can play Bam and Whiteside together. Except for a few matchups. I mean, maybe when they're playing the Kings and the Kings are running out two huge guys, they can run out two huge guys. But, I mean, are Bam and Whiteside going to play together when they're playing a team like the Warriors? It's just not going to happen. So I think Kelly Olynyk is going to get to see, you want to know really what I'm thinking? Probably like 27 minutes a game.
Really? 27 minutes? That's higher than I thought. I think anything approaching on the above 25 minutes a game, he becomes, one of those fringe players. And anything above that, once you start approaching 30, I think Kelly Olynyk's going to bring Standard League value. Simply because he can hit those threes, he's going to be a little bit more open. I don't know, he'll be probably as open as he was in Boston. And it'll be interesting to see him playing with Hassan Whiteside. What that does to his game. I'm not really sure. I haven't really thought too much about the Kelly Olynyk experience, which is, I think, what they're billing this year's Miami Heat season as the Kelly Olynyk experience.
I'll say this. He was a 12th round value in a 12-team league last year, ranked 133rd at the end of the season on a total value basis when he only played 20 and a half minutes a game. So I think he can probably slide his way into the top 100 or pretty close next season if he can kind of produce those same statistics, which I don't see why he wouldn't. He's not a guy I love to pick in the sense that
there's nothing super special about him.
Well, and the steals and the blocks aren't great, and that usually at that point I'm looking for fill some deficiencies, and like you said, he's not really filling any kind of deficiency because he just does a little tiny bit of everything.
Let's go through the rest of the Standard Leagues guys on this team. Goran Dragic. He had
Is there a guy named Gordon?
Goran Dragic. These Eastern European names are always going to get me. I do love Eastern Europe, though. It's a beautiful place. Dragic, he was 45th on a standard head-to-head 9-cat rankings last year. Had a pretty good year, 20 points, about 6 assists, a little over a steal, 4 rebounds a game. Does he have a better year this year? Is he going to regress?
I think he's a top 50 guy, but barely. I mean, I think he is what he is at this point. I don't think he's really going to get any better. I don't really think he's going to get that much worse.
Yeah, I don't see a huge leap out of him, but I also don't see anyone trying to take his playing time. And he's 31 years old. That doesn't necessarily mean a hard drop-off by any means. I'd feel comfortable picking him in the top 50, but if he falls below the top 50, I would be looking forward to picking him. I'm not seeing any breakout potential from him. They did re-sign James Johnson. I'm a little down on James Johnson. I think he had basically a career year last year, and he's getting stuck into a situation where Justice Winslow is back in the rotation, and they got a couple other forwards that they can throw at teams.
Well, okay, so here's the way I'm looking at it. I am well down on James Johnson. One, because I think he kind of made a name for himself. People remember, I picked him up off the wire and he won me my league last year. So people have a tendency to gravitate towards that player again. Number 2, Winslow's back. They added Kelly Olynyk. Okay, so those two guys are going to kind of play that. Justice Winslow's going to play some 3, play some 4. Kelly Olynyk's going to play some 4, play some 5. They're going to want to get both Waiters and Richardson minutes. So there's no real great place for James Johnson to get a ton of minutes. And like you said, I think that was his ceiling, right? That was his peak year. So if we assume he's going to regress a little bit, and he's probably I can't really see him getting any more minutes. I don't really see how he gets any better. And I think his name is out there now. And so he's probably not going to be worth the pick.
Yeah, he finished the season pretty strong. People know about him. He's one of our favorite types of guys. He gets over a steal and a block a game. He does really everything. He's really the glue guy. He gets very good rebounds and assists and throws in a 3. But the problem with those guys is if he takes a hit anywhere, if he suddenly is below a steal or below a 3 or only getting 2 assists a game instead of 4 to 5 assists, that value drops off pretty quickly. He's got to be doing everything just right to be a top 50 player. And I think he's going to drop down to below or around 30 minutes a game, if not below 30 minutes a game, simply for the reasons you said. There's not enough minutes for all the people on this team.
Well, and he had a kind of a breakout season at 29. He's had quite a few injury problems in the past. I don't see it getting any better, and I kind of think people are going to be around, somewhere right around the top 50. They're going to be wanting to take him, and
that's ceiling, right? That's basically ceiling,
right? Yeah, there's no profit built in right now. If he's getting drafted at pick 100, then yeah, I'm probably in, but I just don't see that happening.
No, I don't either, unless you're in a league that doesn't pay attention. I think he's a little bit more. So we've had 2 guys kind of break out in the last couple of years, DeMarre Carroll and Marvin Williams. And DeMarre Carroll, basically disappeared pretty quickly. But Marvin Williams has kind of kept kind of plateaued and stayed on that plateau for a couple of years. I think he's a little bit more Marvin Williams than he is DeMarre Carroll. I don't think he's going to suddenly disappear next season. Standard league relevant for sure, but do expect to maybe be a little bit less effective overall next season.
No, definitely not a name I'm circling on my sheet going, I got to get this guy.
No, not at all. Are there any other guys on this team that you are circling on your draft sheet?
I can't say that there are.
This team might have had the most players in one roster that were on a standard league team at some point in the season, because Tyler Johnson was probably on a lot of people's teams. Dion Waiters probably made an appearance. Josh Richardson definitely made an appearance on quite a few people's teams. I'm not sure Wayne Elliott made an appearance on a team, but I'm sure a healthy Justice Winslow did at the beginning of the year.
That's the one I want to talk about is Winslow.
Yeah, I think we should, because
where were you last year? Where did you at the beginning of the season? Were you one of the ones super hyped on him that were kind of getting crazy with the picking him, or
no? I was willing to take a flyer on him at the end of my drafts. And
I was in the same boat.
Yeah, I was not like taking him in the 7th or 8th round, expecting a 5-tool kind of guy. I mean, like, in reality, his ceiling would have been James Johnson, and I'm not even sure he can do that.
Can he shoot?
I haven't seen any evidence that he can, but I also haven't seen him play very many, about 18 games. Over the last season as an actual starting minutes type of guy. He did have some very interesting games last season. He had a 23-13 game with 4 freaking steals and 3 assists. He had a couple 6 and 7 assist games. He does seem to be very reliable when it comes to steals, which is a category that's very hard to find. But he shot 35%. That's very bad.
And for his career, now granted, it's still only 687 field goal attempts. He is a 40% shooter.
That's pretty terrible. And he's a bad free throw shooter. He's a 3-4 who for no reason should be shooting bad free throws. And he's a
terrible 3-point shooter.
Yeah, and in today's game, he seems to me to be someone you could fit into a punting strategy, and not necessarily someone I would pick up. Quite frankly, I'm not sure he's going to be standard league relevant next year.
He is still 21. I'm interested. Do we know if he's playing basketball yet?
I haven't heard a peep out of Miami, but I think they're all just partying right now. So,
yeah, okay. So he is, I believe, playing basketball now, which is good, right? It gives him some time to work on his game, work on his jump shot. I'm not in love with him, but in my last round of a standard league draft, he's maybe the kind of guy I take a shot on still. Just he's only 21. They want him to be successful, right? He was a high pick, one of their very few lottery picks. I just think they want him to succeed, and they're going to keep putting the ball in his hands. And he's kind of got an interesting skill set, but that probably only doing it if I'm punting the percentages, because I don't think he's going to be great at shooting anything.
No, and that's going to affect basically his value in any type of league. Being a very bad free throw shooter, being a very bad field goal percentage type of guy. He's going to get the minutes, though. He's going to play starters minutes. They are pretty much bought in on the fact that this guy can be somewhat of a star.
Well, he played 35 minutes a game last year in those 18 games before he got hurt. And that was age 20. So at age 21, you can't really think they're going to give him any less minutes.
Yeah. Now, granted, that was before they realized Tyler Johnson and Josh Richardson were worthy of playing over 30 minutes a game. Those guys' minutes increased as the year went on, just out of necessity, and it turned out those guys were, talented enough to be standard league relevant and to be relevant on an NBA court. I'd like to see what happens with him back in the roster. I think that hurts Josh Richardson and Tyler Johnson both in a way, because you got Tyler Johnson and Dion Waiters splitting minutes. And then you got basically Josh Richardson and Justice Winslow splitting minutes with James Johnson. This could be almost the reverse. Where last year there was a bunch of players that were relevant, and this year no one might play enough minutes to be relevant.
Well, and it hurts the upside of everybody, because I'm going into my draft. I'm not super excited to have any of these guys unless they fall to. I mean, obviously there's a price for everybody, but they're all kind of cannibalizing each other. So even late in the draft, I'm not super excited about having Josh Richardson or Dion Waiters or Justice Winslow, because, what if it's the other guys who get the minutes and you get left out in the cold? Now in a standard league, that's not the worst thing in the world, because you can just cut them and find somebody else. But in the leagues that I mostly play in are deeper leagues, like, it's hard to gamble on one of those guys unless you really have some courage in your convictions, in the sense that there's nobody to pick up. So you're just stuck holding the guy playing 20 minutes a night, and you're kind of up the creek.
Yeah, you're taking a shot here, and I don't want to take a shot on Justice Winslow. I guess I would if I'm going to take a shot on somebody in a deeper league, it would be James Johnson, just because he does have kind of all the tools. And I wouldn't mind, Tyler Johnson as well. Tyler Johnson just got paid, which is a little worrisome, but that guy, he could also, approach a 1 steal 1 block as a guard, which is pretty impressive. Is there any, deeper league talents or dynasty keeper type of guys on this team? Other than, I guess, Bam Amadeo would be your dynasty outlook.
And I was really impressed with Bam in the summer league, in the sense that he showed a jump shot that I wasn't expecting. And I think I waxed lyrically about this once before, that I was really impressed with Bam's summer league performance. But he can't play next to Whiteside, and he's not going to get many minutes behind Whiteside. So he's kind of one of those guys, you stash him for a couple years and you hope that he finds a different situation, or Whiteside does, and he gets a lot of minutes. But I think it's a couple years off at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at him as like a Thon McCurr type of player, but he could be, but he's not going to get the playing time with this crowded of a team. Unless he's something special. I would have him higher in my dynasty rankings and keeper rankings than quite a few of the rookies. But other than that, deeper leagues outside of the guys we mentioned, I'm not too excited about anybody.
I'm with you.
All right, let's hit up the next team. Who's our next team? I don't even know. One of the greatest.
The Ooze, my favorite team.
One of the greatest mediocre teams of all time, the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, now don't hate on Stan Van Gundy.
Mediocre. They're so mediocre. Now, they at least did some interesting stuff. They made the trade for Avery Bradley. They're moving Marcus Morris over to the Celtics along with Aaron Baines. They then, for some reason, just got rid of Caldwell Pope and ended up bringing on Langston Galloway, Anthony Tolliver, and drafted Luke Kennard. So it's sort of the same team with a couple new pieces, the main building blocks are still there, basically. So where do you want to begin with the obvious Andre Drummond or somewhere else?
Well, to answer your question of why they got rid of Caldwell Pope, it became a money thing. Basically, they were near the tax limit, and when you traded for Bradley and got rid of Morris, right? The whole reason the Celtics wanted to do that deal is Marcus Morris is on a really cheap contract, and so Avery Bradley made a lot more money than Marcus Morris, so they didn't have the money to bring back Caldwell Pope.
Yeah, I understand that they couldn't sign him, but it was kind of weird to how it all kind of went down over the course of a few days.
Well, and this team was interesting in the sense that they paid Langston Galloway, now not a ton, but their big thing last year was the bench, right? They hated their bench, that they didn't really think they got any production from it. They weren't wrong. That's really why they put Toby Harris on the bench, like about, I don't know, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the season, is they wanted someone to come off the bench who could handle the ball and score a little bit, and they didn't really have anybody. So they tried to build up the bench, but instead they got Anthony Tolliver and Langston Galloway and Luke Kennard. And
Ugh.
I mean, I don't know that was building the bench. So I think we're kind of in the same boat in that the starters are going to probably play some significant minutes.
So yeah, at least this is almost the opposite in a couple ways of the Miami Heat. They got so many players that they're going to cannibalize each other's minutes. Here, the starters are just so much better than the bench. They're going to get relevant minutes, which is good for fantasy consistency. But none of these players are terribly exciting. Is Avery Bradley the best fantasy player on this team?
Well,
Are you going to make a argument for Reggie Jackson? I dare you.
no, I'm not. I'm not going to make an argument for Reggie Jackson.
Okay,
I mean, I was just going to say Drummond is the best player if you're punting free throws, obviously.
Yeah, if you're in a head-to-head, you're punting free throws. You do not care about your free throws at all because you are going to get last. Unless, so I'll go off a little tangent. Andre Drummond, you're about to lose a ton of money if you don't figure out your free throw situation. Just shoot underhand.
I will say this:
Just do it.
I'd probably rather have Toby Harris than Avery Bradley too.
Really?
Is that weird?
I would disagree. I think Tobias Harris is just fine, but I like Avery Bradley quite a bit. I guess I'm a little bit more on Avery Bradley this year than most.
So where is your big improvement in Avery Bradley? Or are you seeing him about the same? I mean, he switched teams. Relatively the same, maybe even more minutes are probably going to come his way. I'll give you that. But
yeah, I could see a handful of more minutes, maybe even running more plays for him outside of just watching Isaiah Thomas shoot the ball.
He played 33 and a half minutes. Now, I mean, Marcus Morris has had some years where he's played like 36 or 37, but I mean, he's not going to get that many more minutes, right? I mean, we can both agree on that. There's just not that many more minutes a person can play.
True, but before the injury in the middle of the season, where he sat out for about a month and a half or so, he was having an incredible year. He was having multiple double doubles from a guard, getting over 10 or more 10 rebounds a game.
That's kind of where I'm worried about, to be honest with you.
You think that's where he takes an actual hit? Because I'm not really sure. I guess there was a need for someone to actually rebound the damn ball.
Yes.
On Boston, but here there's not. That's a good point.
And so let's look at the 3 years before last year. He averaged 6.1 rebounds a game last year.
Yes.
Now, in relatively the same minutes the year before, he averaged 2.9, and then the minutes dropped the next 2 years, but he averaged 3.1 and 3.8. I'm more in the like 4.5, 5 rebound range than I am 6.
That's a very good point. I think you might be convincing me that Tobias Harris could be a better pick this year. His assists could go up a little bit, but that's really not his game. Other than that, across the board, he should be very similar to last year.
And I mean, they're similar guys. I think Tobias Harris is going to probably shoot a little bit better percentages. I think the rebounds are going to be relatively the same. I think Avery Bradley maybe gets a few more assists. I think Tobias Harris probably gets a few more 3-pointers. So, I mean, I think they're fun. Given they play the same amount of games, which, I mean, we never can really super project that.
No.
I think they're similar players, but I kind of think I prefer Tobias Harris.
They're actually surprisingly similar players. I don't think I've ever put, and I don't know why I would, put Avery Bradley and Tobias Harris's stats right next to each other. They're eerily similar players.
Yes.
Which is, I think, a little worrisome for someone like Tobias Harris, who I guess should be better.
No. See, this is where I think you're maybe missing my ultimate point. I think everyone thinks what you think. Avery Bradley, much better player than Tobias Harris. So I think I'm buying Tobias Harris because I could probably get Tobias Harris 2, 3, 4 rounds lower.
Well, if you're going to put in the context of where you might be able to draft him, I'm going to agree with you. Tobias Harris is not a sexy name.
But he's Avery Bradley, right? I mean, you just said it yourself.
Yeah.
He's Avery Bradley. So
well, he's not shooting guard eligible. That could adjust some people if you play in the leagues where you actually have specific. I'm not a fan of those kind of leagues, but
and I think that like ESPN and those guys are getting so much more liberal with the position eligibility anyway that it never really seems to make a huge deal to my teams.
I think that's fair. Do you think Reggie Jackson is due for a bit of a comeback, or do you think that injury was the end of it? Because I don't even feel like they wanted to play Reggie Jackson down the stretch last year.
They definitely did not.
Yeah, they were trying not to, and that's incredibly worrisome. And I know in a couple of my leagues, people were trying to move Reggie Jackson because they're like, "Oh, it's definitely a buy low situation." I was like, "No, it's not. This is what's going to be."
Well, and the weird thing about Reggie Jackson is, I mean, he did play only 27.4 minutes last season, which was not a lot, but he's never played more than 30.7 minutes a game. I mean, like, doesn't every starting point guard play more than 30.7 minutes a game?
They should. The Bulls are going to really try to break that record, but
I'll say this. I am very interested in Reggie Jackson if he's rated very low, in the sense that I think there is a lot of upward mobility possible. But I'm never hunting for Reggie Jackson because, I mean, we've gone over this a million times. No steals, no blocks, really. No steals, no blocks, no for me.
Wow, that's a good phrase. I like that. It's a good catchphrase. You should stick with it. I'm not a fan of Reggie Jackson. I don't care for Reggie Jackson.
But
he's he's like into standard league value, and banking on a point guard like that, which is amazing. You're getting a starting point guard in the NBA, and he's going to give you bench-esque value.
If I can get him in my last round, I may say he's my favorite last round flyer because we're going to find out pretty quick.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's going to get him in the last round.
Right.
In fact, I would take him in, the third to last round. Even.
Oh, and that's kind of where I'm at. I think that probably, I mean, after pick 100, I'm looking at him.
Certainly.
And you know what I mean? Just as a shot, right? Because we talk about this a lot, right? Those last 3 picks in your draft are probably guys you're going to churn through anyways. At some point.
Who's the starting 4 on this team?
Oh, man. I think, God. I think it's, man. I think, okay, here's what's going to happen. They're going to start Stanley Johnson, I think. From everything.
Bias to the 4 and put.
And here's what I've been hearing, that they're thinking about letting Tobias be that 6th man again, which it didn't really matter because Tobias played.
Then who's the starting 4 again?
John Lure, just like he was last year, but then Tobias played way more minutes than him anyways. It was like we wanted John Lure out there to not take a huge offensive role, but we couldn't let John Lure play off the bench because we had no bench players. So we couldn't make him the number 1 or number 2 option off the bench because he's not that kind of player. He's like a spot-up shooter. So I think that's probably how they eventually play it. I guess Stanley Johnson's the interesting one to talk about, but he's not really shown us anything to make him interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's say John Lure plays 30 minutes a game, is he standard league relevant? I don't think so.
No.
It's close. Right, he's a guy. He's out there. He's getting some.
He's
stuff
one of those guys.
I
streamed him some last year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean for some stats, but I mean, like, he's just rebounds and a little bit of assists from a power forward and 10 points. I mean, it's not like it's anything sexy.
In a deeper league, is Ish Smith worth picking up just in case?
How deep we talking?
I
actually don't think it has to be that deep.
Let's say 14 team.
I'm probably taking maybe a flyer on Ish. I mean, it depends on what
layout.
Yeah, I probably am. I mean, in 24 minutes a game last year, 9 points, 5 assists. I mean, I could see
lay-round guy, and he might play more minutes.
I could see him definitely getting the 24 again, and those 5 assists are valuable in those deep leagues, man.
What about my main man, Boban, the giant killer?
How
He's
many
gonna
minutes?
average 23 rebounds,
How many minutes did Aaron Baines play last year?
according to his per 36 minutes. Aaron Baines played 15 minutes a game.
Well, there's Boban's 15 minutes.
Boban, briefly, with 22 minutes a game in the last 4 games of the season, averaged 10 rebounds, almost averaged a steal and a block. That sample size is completely worthless and completely not worth talking about. But is Boban going to get enough minutes to be deep league relevant, I guess?
He's going to get 15 a game. Is that enough?
Mm.
He's going to play the Aaron Baines role. He's not going to get any more minutes than that.
15. I don't know. I think 15 is enough for a 16-team league. Barely. Maybe he's a guy you stream, I would assume.
From playing in many of those 16-team leagues, I know that it gets somewhat ugly at the end of those drafts.
And those are I would say those are my least favorite leagues to play in, and we'll probably get to that in a future episode. But if you want to make your league a little bit more exciting, play in a shallower league. If you're not super into the NBA, you're coming over from fancy football, play in a shallow league. It's fun. Not a super shallow league.
I'm with you. It's just different, right? I mean, it's a whole different ball game. I kind of like it, but I mean, it's a lot different and it's a lot harder to get into if you're not a super crazy person about the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. If you're not really worried about Aaron Baines and Bino Udrih, maybe the deeper leagues aren't for you. Let's go back to someone you mentioned who I do want to talk about, and I kind of glossed over. Stanley Johnson. Is he? I mean, the word on the street is he might start. If he's playing 28 minutes a game, let's say, is he bringing anything to the table when you look at him fantasy in the brief few years he's played? There's not been a whole lot to get super excited about, but
I'll give him 30 and tell you I don't want him in a standard league.
It looks like he could be someone who could get some steals, but I just don't see him doing anything else.
Well, and here's really super what worried me is he got 23 minutes as a rookie, and then it went down to 18.
On a team that needed more people to play.
Yes, on a team that was crying and saying, our bench stinks, we need people. And he was getting 17.8 minutes a game.
He can't shoot.
And he can't do anything else.
He cannot shoot.
This is a guy who's going to get like 5 rebounds and 2 assists and a steal in 30 minutes and maybe 10 points, probably not even 10 points.
There used to be a time where, those fringe guys, not Stanley Johnson type players, but your Tyler Johnsons, for instance, where they did a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they were all right. You could throw them in there. And I think those days are gone. There's just too much talent in the NBA. There's too many guys who can shoot. There are too many centers who hit 3-pointers nowadays. And a player who can't shoot and gets you some of a little bit of the counting stats maybe, just really doesn't cut it anymore.
I'm with you.
And I don't even think Stanley Johnson could even approach that, like you're saying, with 30 minutes a game. I'm not interested in him. Even in a dynasty league, I would stay away from him. He's very young. He's 21. He's a great defender, but we're gonna see this year. He's gonna have to prove himself, but I'm not getting excited about Stanley Johnson. Anyone else on Detroit? We kind of went through the whole damn team.
No, and no. I'm not super into any of those guys. Even in deep leagues, the rest of them kind of get scary pretty quick.
All right. Screw Detroit. One of the, hopefully they rebuild Detroit. Let's do something. It's better than Cleveland. Get out there, buy yourself a cool studio apartment in downtown Detroit. Costs $35. help rebuild that city.
I thought maybe you were going to say they give it to you.
They might. If you're like a chef, an artist, go to. I'm not serious. There's some pretty cool places in Detroit now, and that's because the whole city went bankrupt. Let's move on quickly to another city that nobody wants to go to, Charlotte.
They made one of the most depressing moves this offseason. They bummed me out, my friend.
Yeah. The Charlotte used to be Bobcats, the Charlotte Hornets. Dwight Howard added to this team via trade. They added Michael Carter Williams. If you wanted to like double up on mediocrity, they added Michael Carter Williams. They did draft Malik Monk, who seems like he's somewhat promising of a rookie when it comes to offensive stats. And then they basically brought back everyone else who's relevant other than Ramon Sessions, who, quite frankly, wasn't terribly relevant.
Who traded up to a better situation in New York, and good for him, my friend.
Hey, he's going to play. He's going to play over there. I'm a little. New York is going to be a real mess. Another team that's going to be really hard to figure out what the hell's going on that.
Another tire fire. I'm excited to talk about that.
A lot of tire fires here in the East and a lot of crap cities.
But no, I'm just mad about this Dwight trade because they took minutes away from one of my personal favorite men, Cody Zeller.
Yeah, Cody Zeller takes a hurt here. He was a decent percentage guy, good with the field goals anyway, and okay with the free throws. A steal block potential-esque player, good rebounds. Kind of more of your traditional center-esque player, so not a world beater by any means. Not the next DeMarcus Cousins, but is Cody Zeller going to get enough minutes to be relevant this year?
Well, they got Marvin Williams as a 4, okay? And assuming they valued Dwight Howard over Cody Zeller, which we could talk about. Well, we could talk about, is he better? I mean, like, sure, maybe they thought that. I mean, they're Charlotte. They sometimes get a little crazy. They might have thought they were buying Dwight Howard in 2007, not 2017.
Yeah, is he better? Is debatable. But are they going to play Dwight Howard more minutes than Cody Zeller? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, so that's the question for me becomes, okay, they kind of established Cody Zeller ahead of Frank Kaminsky in their pecking order last year when he was healthy. So are they going to be comfortable playing Cody Zeller at the 4 a little bit with Dwight Howard? That's really the question I'm looking for the answer to, in the sense that if they are, I think Cody Zeller can get similar to the minutes he got last year, maybe slightly less, maybe only 25 or 26 instead of 28. If they're not comfortable playing Zeller at the 4, that minute load's going to take a hit.
And I don't think they're going to be. I think a more natural fit at the 4 would be using someone like Marvin Williams in depending on who they're playing, or Frank Kaminsky.
But see, here's the thing. Okay, so it's basically Marvin Williams and Dwight Howard are going to start, right? I don't think there's much debate about that. So you got Kaminsky and Zeller to play the rest of those minutes. And so the question becomes, what's the breakdown there between those 4 players? If they give Howard 30 and Zeller's only going to play center, I mean, that's simple math. There's 18 minutes for Cody Zeller.
Yeah, and I think that's enough. If it's down to 18, I think that's enough to just drop Cody Zeller out of even worth mentioning in standard leagues. And Frank Kaminsky as well. I think he loses some of his luster, even though he wasn't really standard league relevant too often last year, even though he does have the ability to hit some threes. This team just got worse fantasy-wise, and probably worse in real life as well.
Well, and Dwight Howard he's not a guy you can get excited about being on your team anymore. He's always complaining about something, and just seems like he's in general kind of just a guy who's unhappy with his life. And
I'm not really sure what's wrong with him.
There's just always some sort of circus around him. Though you always hear the story of, he wants the ball more, he wants this, he wants that. It's like,
it seems like he's a giant kid. You know what I mean? Like it's like, when are you going to take this is currently your job, still your job. We're all in here taking it very seriously. I think that was like, Kobe's number one beef with him was that Kobe was a murderer. Kobe was trying to murder other people. He was considering murdering other people. He was, secretly taunting or basically making players hate other players on their other team, doing wild, mental ninjutsu on people. Dwight Howard's the exact opposite of that by 1,000%. And he's just not good anymore. And fantasy wise, he's very bad. And him being on this team just drops Cody Zeller and Frank Kaminsky out of standard league relevancy. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, do you like him at all?
Okay, I got one.
No,
One more thing I want to say
Go ahead.
about Dwight Howard. So he's always been relatively healthy, except for barring a few seasons where he kind of had big injuries. But he's played 74 and 71, and then 41, 71, 76 games for the last 5 years. So relatively healthy there. But we've seen the big men, especially when they get into the 30s, kind of maybe hit a wall and go down with something big. And now this is an if that happens, I'm snatching Cody Zeller that minute.
100%. That's a good thing to look out for, is a possible Dwight Howard injury. Cody Zeller will then play 30-plus minutes, I would assume.
And be really, really interesting in the sense that he can get that block and steal and just do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and be a nice little value for you. So there's that. Okay, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I'm ready. What's the question?
The question is, do I give a crap about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist?
Yeah, definitely give a crap about
The answer
Michael
was
Kidd.
no. The answer was no. I do not give a crap about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
So surprisingly to me, Kidd-Gilchrist shot 0 3-pointers. Maybe the only small forward in the league who did not shoot a 3-pointer last year.
I mean, do I need to go into the same diatribe I just went into? The guys who get the counting stats here and there but can't shoot don't matter anymore. These fringe guys, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist kind of matters a little bit more than some. These fringe guys who just get a little bit of this and a little bit of that and can't shoot just don't muster. They, 4 years ago maybe this would have been an all right guy to take in.
But here's the thing, I'll say his percentages are pretty good. He can't shoot, but he's smart enough not to shoot.
True.
And he's got the block and the steal. I'm kind of interested in him as a late round value.
Why has he never played 30 minutes a game?
I don't think he's a great player, but you cannot be a great player and be all right for fantasy, and I think he kind of is.
Yeah, I disagree. There's nothing to get excited about here.
Oh, there's nothing to get excited about.
He's a filler. It's one of those late rounds, and there's really, him or,
He's the guy that I look for in those late rounds when
Tyler Johnson. I guess who would you rather have, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist or Tyler Johnson?
Probably Tyler Johnson, but let's not. But Kidd-Gilchrist is in line for a safer 29 minutes.
Yeah, the playing time is there, and that's obviously the most important stat when it comes to fantasy, but he's not doing anything with those 29 minutes.
Hey, 76th ranked in total value last year. Granted, he played 81 games. But
Give me a break.
he was actually ahead of Tyler Johnson.
That is incredible. He played 81 games, which is why his totals were good enough. His per game value in head-to-head 9-cat is 108.
Still standard league relevant, my friend. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Sadly, he's not sadly, but he's standard league relevant. He's had a few health problems here, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay, I don't care about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. I don't ever want to talk about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist again.
I'm still taking him late in my draft. If he's there in the last round, I'm taking him, man. I'm telling you. I'm gonna use him to defeat you many times this season, and I'm gonna laugh.
Great. I can't wait for you to take Kidd-Gilchrist and lose. Marvin Williams, is he still gonna just turn out an all right season? He's a much better Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
All right, you broke me there. Why should I expect Marvin Williams to be anything less than Marvin Williams was last year?
Yep, I'm fully on board. He's 31, so he's at that age where things might slow down a little bit, but he doesn't really get by on his like super athleticism by any means. He approaches that steel block type of. He's got that type of personality in his game. He, on the other hand, can actually hit a three.
Well, and like we discussed, there's not a lot of guys pushing him for minutes.
Yes.
He seems pretty safe right around that 30 a game mark, and it's like, sign me up.
He's getting more minutes than Kidd-Gilchrist. Let's go to the top two players on this team. Kemba Walker and Nick Batum. Kemba Walker, could he be better than he was last year?
No.
He's right in the middle of his prime. He's 27 years old.
No.
He upped his game across the board. He did. This is something that happened to Mike Conley. Started losing his steals, but started gaining his more 3-pointers, a few more assists. He's kind of an all-around, other than you're going to get volume shooting at in the low 40s. So that is going to affect your field goal percentage. But other than that, his turnover rate is very low for a guy who handles the ball as much as he does. He doesn't get elite assists, but he does enough of the assists and rebounding to be according to last year, he's a top 30 player.
Yes. So here's two places I want to take you to task on him. Okay. He shot the most field goals he shot in the last 4 years and shot 44%. Does that stick around?
I'm proud of him. Yeah, I think maybe not 40 exactly that high, but I don't see him dropping any into the 30s. I think he's figured it out. I think he's figured out his game. I know he's had previous seasons where he's dropped below the 40 field goal mark, but kind of like Mike Conley, some of these point guards are very late bloomers, and I think Kemba Walker is one of those late bloomers where he's figured it out. Look at Isaiah Thomas. I'm not going to compare Kemba and Isaiah by any means, but they figure it out. And there is a peak period, and Kemba Walker is right in the middle of it.
Do the blocks and steals come back?
That's the tough question. I'm not sure.
And this is why I said no. I think he's the same player. And if anything, I think his field goal percentage gets a little worse, and it's 43% instead of 44%. But I don't see the blocks and the steals coming back. The ways he gets better is if he shoots the good percentage again, and the blocks and steals come back.
Yeah, and then there's a potential for that.
If I
had to put money on it, I'd probably say no. But I also wouldn't say he's going to take any significant drop off from where he was. I still have him ranked around where he was. A few people have jumped him simply because I think there's a handful of people who are going to get much better next season, which I'm excited to talk about. But I don't have a problem with people taking Kemba Walker, in the third round, where a lot of people take Kemba Walker.
I'm with you there. I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like probably third, maybe probably more mid third, late third. That's kind of where I'm at with him.
Do you hate Nick Batum?
I love Nick Batum.
Whoa. The exact opposite of what I thought you were going to say. Why do you love Nick Batum?
I just think Nick Batum is always like super underrated. Nick Batum's a guy I end up on with on my teams. I won't say a lot, but a good amount. I like the assists and rebounds combo there with the steal and the usually half a block, although he didn't quite get there last season. The percentages are not great. Obviously, the field goal, the free throw is pretty good. I'm a fan of Batum. I own Batum quite a bit, actually.
Nick Batum is endlessly frustrating for me. He always ends up being. Well, there's a couple of years where I picked him up, and he, of course, it was the 1 year he completely struggled in his last year in Portland. But
the year he had 9 points a game.
Yeah, I wasn't very happy about that. But Nick Batum's is endlessly frustrating for this reason, right? I'm going to read you 2 consecutive lines from last year. 31 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and 8 3-pointers. Next game, 5 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 3-pointer. His inconsistency is often just absurd. But when you average all that out, he ends up being usually a very good player that a lot of people don't.
He's a set it and forget it guy. I will give you that.
You cannot look at his stat lines. You got to look at his like monthly stat line, not his daily stat line. And then you can survive owning Nick Batum. And honestly, I think he is underdrafted in a lot of the drafts.
Criminally underdrafted a lot of times.
Yeah. So he's a great value. And in that sense, I do love Nick Batum. I hate looking at his stat line every day.
But
I should just stop doing that, and then the problem solved, huh?
Well, and you can't read too much into any one thing. I think you got to look at things kind of in a bigger picture in fantasy, and especially with the way you like to play in Roto. I mean, I'm always looking big picture in Roto. Until it gets down to the end, obviously, and then you're looking kind of right now because that's all that matters. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Nick Batum. I will probably own Nick Batum a healthy amount this season because he will probably go in the 50, 60, 70 range, and I will be the one taking him.
Do you still think he's going to bring the same type of value that he brought last year into this season?
I think Nick Batum's Nick Batum, man. I don't see any reason why any of that changes.
That's what he does. Let's move on to another team. Let's talk about the.
Do you want to cut one here? You've done like an hour, just so you know.
Yeah, I was gonna cut one here, I think.
And then just like do a wrap, and then we can start another one. I got time. I'm just saying. You've done like an hour, so if you're gonna do like 2 or 3 or 4 more teams, like you're gonna be in the 2-hour mark.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna cut one, and just split this into 2 episodes. Do you want to do like an outro and an intro?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, cool. All right, yeah, I think that's it for this week. We got through 3 teams. Do you have anything you want to plug this week, Tyler?
I do not really, my friend. I am looking forward to writing some stuff, but I have nothing out at this moment.
It's the dead period for the NBA finally. Yeah, I don't really have anything out either. You can find me on Twitter at Watch.
Oh, that is not true, Mike.
What?
You're not going to plug your new podcast?
Okay. I will plug the new podcast. It's not officially out. If you go to hashtag
I listened to an episode. How's that not out?
Thank you. I appreciate it. We don't have our own official feed yet, but we are doing hashtag Bulls. I am doing hashtag Bulls with Jordan Schultz. So if you want to hear how much I hate the front office in Chicago and get insight from being actually in the United Center as the fans slowly turn on Fred Hoiberg. We got to make it lively this season. We're gonna have some segments about how terrible Hoiberg is. I'm sure there will be a segment about how bad Cameron Payne is. It will be an interesting season in Chicago. So if you want to check that out, hashtag Bulls. You cannot find it on podcasts where you find podcasts today, but do keep an eye out for hashtag Bulls wherever you download podcasts right now. And if you like this podcast, you should leave a review and rate us because it helps other people find and listen to our podcast. Or tell a friend. You know?
Tell 2. You know what? Just tell 2. Tell anyone you got.
Yeah. Tell people on the street. Stop people in the middle of the street. No, do it.
I'll think you're crazy.
That's fine. They'll never see him again. It's totally fine. And then they'll hear about our podcast. Yeah, I think that's all I got. What's your Twitter handle, Tyler, so people can, hit you up with all their.
You can find me on Twitter at Watsy4444.
That's 4 4s to make sure it is confusing as possible. And I am at Watch the Boxes per usual. If you are interested in joining a Watching the Boxes Fantasy League, feel free to DM either one of us, and we will put you in touch with the registration, which is simply clicking on a link and then being in that league. It is a very difficult process. So if you're interested in defeating us in fantasy basketball, feel free to hit us up, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Tyler.
Yep. Have a good one, Mike.
All right, cool. Let's run it back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Mike. Just another day, my friend. Another day in the world of fantasy basketball.
Oh yeah, this is the grind time where you're just like reading about depth charts and you don't know what's happening because preseason hasn't started, and you don't know what people are how their minutes are gonna look. And you're trying to make your rankings.
Oh, and you're hearing
far too early.
My favorite is you hear the stories of like Stanley Johnson's going to get 35 minutes a game, and you're going, Stanley Johnson could only play 20 minutes a game last year. How's he going to get 35 this year?
And even if he does play 35 minutes, should I even care that he's going to play 35 minutes? Because he's not very good at fantasy basketball. You can actually hear more about Stanley Johnson, because I know that's what I know a lot of people tune in. They're like, I wonder if they're going to talk about Stanley Johnson this week. We did in the last podcast. You can check out, we're doing our team previews. We did Miami, Detroit, and Charlotte in the last podcast. And there's another one before that, so go check those out. We'll be knocking those out, and we're about to knock out 3 more teams right here. Are you ready, Tyler?
Oh, I am beyond ready, my friend.
Beyond ready. That's too ready for me. I am going to start out with the team that everyone's like, oh, they're too old. It's not this again.
The Chicago Bulls?
No, they're too terrible. That's a completely different segment. The Memphis Grizzlies. The team that's looked sort of the same for ages, and everybody's like, they should do something different, but it continues to work for some reason. And it even worked last year with a couple of old vets really taking a step up.
So should we talk about the craziness of this team for right now?
Yeah, lay it out there.
Okay, so they have 16 guys under contract already. They have 16 guaranteed contracts.
If you're keeping track at home, that is too many.
And not only that, they have a restricted free agent in oh man, I just drew a total blank.
JaMychal Green.
Yes, that's the one I'm looking for.
Who was pretty good.
And they've basically told Tony Allen to get lost because they signed Tyreke Evans and Ben McLemore, and I can't see any way they bring him back. But they've got to bring back JaMychal Green, right? So now they have 17 dudes under contract.
That's, if you're keeping track at home, too many.
And so I just don't see how this is going to work. So you got to feel like some of these lower guys, like an Andrew Harrison, probably maybe a Troy Daniels, Wayne Selden, one of these guys, James Ennis, one of these guys is going to have to go. And actually 2 of them are going to have to go unless they're not going to bring back JaMychal Green.
That's true. And I think they are going to bring back JaMychal Green. Also, there is some dead weight on this team I feel like they can get rid of. I understand they're going to have to waive those people, but waive them. They're not that good. They brought in Tyreke Evans and Ben McLemore and Mario Chalmers for some reason. Mario Chalmers, when I forgot he was still playing basketball.
Post Achilles and Mario Chalmers too, so that could turn ugly fast.
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty sight last time around, and not sure why it would be any better this go around. They lost the oldest man in basketball, Vince Carter. The oldest man to dunk a basketball in a professional game, Vince Carter. I don't think that's true, but it might be close to true.
I would not hate on that man. That man can still play, even though he's old and a little overweight.
Oh, I'm not hating. I love Vince Carter. Right. Vince Carter is the greatest. Vince Carter, people might go against this. Vince Carter, Hall of Fame. I'm putting him in there.
I'm definitely working on that. 100%.
Just for being the baddest ass dunker of all time. Just put him in the Hall of Fame for dunking. Like, just start a section. It's called the best dunkers of all time. It's just Vince Carter.
Dude, anytime I write an article on Vince Carter, I have to put the video of the 2000 dunk contest in there where he just goes nuts. I don't know why. I just have to hopefully make people remember, because I feel like a lot of people now don't remember that.
No, and I think a lot of people forget, like, the dunk contest to that point had been some pretty good dunks. That was like next level shit. That was like seeing an iPhone in the 90s. It was just like, what is happening in the world? Like, people could not fathom what they were seeing at that time. It changed the dunk contest forever.
I am with you there. That was an amazing, amazing night.
I still think about it. And they also lost the legend, Zach Randolph, who both of them went to the Kings. And Zach Randolph in a little legal trouble lately.
Yeah, that is an interesting story that I'm sure we'll get to at some point.
But yeah, he's in California. Pot should be legal. Knock it off, law enforcement. Get your lives together. No one cares.
But you got to think
2017. Nobody gives a crap.
You got to think a suspension of some sort is coming just for the arrest and all that. I mean, it's probably going to be a couple games.
Maybe. Adam Silver is considering, medical marijuana, allowing medical marijuana to be basically a thing. So who's not going to get their card after that in the NBA? I mean, I might go get my card so Adam Silver doesn't suspend me. Let's get into the heart of the Memphis Grizzlies, and that would be Marc Gasol and Mike Conley. Both of them coming back another year older, another year deeper in debt. If you like,
you're richer for these boys, man. What are you talking about?
They're really the fantasy value on this team. We can talk about a few. We are going to talk about a few of these people because that's kind of the whole point of this podcast. But let's start with Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, both with impressive years last year. Do you think they can run that back?
That's kind of what I was going to ask you. Any worries about?
Take either one of them. Start with either one of them.
So I guess I believe in. I'll start with Marc Gasol here.
Okay.
So the big news with Marc Gasol last year was he shot 3-pointers. Marc Gasol doesn't shoot 3-pointers, so
out of nowhere.
Yeah, no. He had. I mean, he had made like 2 for his career, and then he made 1.4 a game. So that was sexy and nice. So the question becomes, do things change a little bit here? I mean, Randolph's gone. I don't see anyone who's taken any kind of usage or role away from Marc Gasol. He's 32, so you worry a little bit about him getting hurt. But he's kind of been doing an every other year thing, which I don't believe in, but he's been hurt every other year, so that's just something that's happened. He finished 28th in per game value last year. I'm not picking him there, but I am probably picking him in the 3rd round, maybe 4th.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Marc Gasol. I always have been. He's not, per most of the guys we like, not a sexy name, but does all the things and was always like a very good assist center, which I was always attracted to. Last year, even increasing his assists from his usual 4 to close to 5 assists a game. He is a steal block guy. He's a great free throw shooter, especially if you're throwing him at center. One of the issues is that his rebounds aren't incredibly stellar, but suddenly adding a 3-point game, I don't see that going away. The Gasols are like a fine wine. They age gracefully. And Paul Gasol is still relevant. Marc Gasol, a much younger Gasol. Some would say a better Gasol.
A 4 years younger Gasol for that.
A tasty dark red Gasol, with hints of oak. You know these Gasols are cultured. That's why Paul went to the Bulls instead of Oklahoma City. He was like, I like opera, not hillbillies eating at Outback Steakhouse. And that's right. Shots fired, Oklahoma City. So yeah, Marc Gasol, I don't see why he's going to be worse next year. I can see his minutes decreasing a little bit, but I still think he has, top 40 value, top 30 value. And if you're picking him up, like you're saying, in the third or even fourth round, you're getting a great value there. I'm not sure he can fall to the fourth round. I don't think people are that slow when it comes to Marc Gasol, but I'm a huge fan, and I'm still on the market.
I'll say this: I'm not reaching in the second round for him.
No,
I don't think he's going to be any better. I guess that was my point I was trying to make, and maybe I did not do a very good job of articulating that. But you know what I mean? He's not a guy I'm thinking he's going to get any better. I'm not thinking he's going to get any worse. I'm thinking he's pretty much what he is.
Well, the other guy on this team, I think people are going to reach into the second round for Mike Conley, who had his best fantasy year at the age of 28, 29. Really, coming into his middle of his prime, actually kind of a little late in his prime, and suddenly scoring 20 points a game, hitting a lot more threes, really coming into his own, shooting a very good percentage at 46%. I'm not as high on Mike Conley as I am on Marc Gasol in repeating what he did last year. What's your take on Mike Conley?
Well, why is that, Mike?
Well, Mike Conley is he's getting older, is number one, and I do think point guards age a little bit differently. They figure it out later in their careers and become a little bit better during their primes. Mike Conley had a career year, like a beyond career year, and at some point he has to regress to the mean. His shooting isn't. I'd be really hard pressed to, even though it kept up all season and getting better all season, which is pretty crazy. I don't know how his shooting continues to hold up at that percentage. And even though he was shooting a lot more threes and making a lot more threes, I don't see a giant decline out of Mike Conley, but a significant, or at least a full step back is on the platform right there. And he's had a lot of injuries in the last 2 years. And they've just been nagging injuries, nothing super serious, but except for that one. But I don't have the confidence in Mike Conley.
I'm with you. I think he's more probably of a 44.5 to 45% shooter, not 46. I think that anytime you shoot 859 from the free throw line, and I think that's as good as that gets.
That's not terribly off from previous seasons, but and he was getting to the line a bit more last year, which was, I'm just shocked that he improved that much at this stage in his career. And granted, he came out early, so it feels like we've seen Mike Conley forever.
Well, and he got a few more minutes than he had the 2 years before that, and he got a lot more uses in the sense that it was kind of that three-headed monster with Zach Randolph, and then Zach Randolph took a step back last year, and it was kind of the two-headed monster with Conley and Gasol. I actually don't really see his numbers slipping that much, but I am also not super excited to pick him in the second round.
I'm not super excited to pick him in the third round.
With the amount of point guards too, some of these guys gotta fall a little bit, and that's kind of, I think, where I'm gonna be at. Is I'm not like, there's the Kemba Walker and the CJ McCollum and the Jeff Teague and the Mike Conley and the Kyle Lowry.
Are you trying to say there's a bunch of guys younger than Mike Conley who are hanging around his value? And
I'm just saying, Dennis Schroeder, Eric Bledsoe, there's all these point guards.
There's a ton of point guards right here in this third round. The third round is lousy with point guards.
And so it's like, am I going to reach for Mike Conley in the second round when I can have any one of those guys who might have the career year that Mike Conley just had? No, I'm not going to reach for Mike Conley when I can have one of those guys in the next round or even in the fourth round. So in that sense, I'm not super high on Mike Conley either, I think. And we can talk about maybe which point guards we'd rather have than Mike Conley, and we might be kind of splitting hairs a little bit there in the sense that I think they all kind of have similar values, but
yeah, I think in the last episode we talked about Kemba Walker. Really, to me, Kemba Walker, Mike Conley, bit of a toss-up. I would take either one. I don't have a terrible preference between the two of them. If I had to guess,
I would say Kimba's going to finish ahead of Mike Conley. I'll throw it out there.
As would I, and I think that Dennis Schroeder's kind of an interesting guy in the sense that I think he might make the leap to Mike Conley level in the sense that who else is going to shoot the ball and score on that Hawks team?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna jump on the Dennis Schroeder bandwagon with you. We will get to that when we get to the Hawks about how I'm not a Dennis Schroeder fan.
But see, here's the thing. Okay, I think and now if they're going at the same value, I'm with you. But if you can get Schroeder in the 4th or 5th round, or you got to take Mike Conley in the 2nd.
Oh well, yeah, that's a completely different discussion. Yeah, there's a lot of point guards, and they're worth waiting on and taking a rarer position, or just really a player who's better. I would be taking Marcus Hull instead.
I'm with you. Like I'm not gonna. I guess maybe I misspoke there. I'm not taking Schroeder over Mike Conley. I'm just saying I think that 2 rounds later, I'd rather have Schroeder than I would rather have Mike Conley in the 2nd.
Oh, I kind of don't disagree. So Zach Randolph played 24 and a half minutes last season. Vince Carter, a little over 24 and a half minutes last season. That's a lot of minutes to go around on this team. Oh, you know what? Tony Allen, 27 minutes a game for this team. That's a ton of minutes to go around on the Memphis Grizzlies.
Can we talk about how their big men stink?
And that's kind of where I'm going. The rest of this team isn't good. But there's 75 minutes to go, so almost 80 minutes to divvy up between a bunch of somewhat scrubs to injury-prone handsome gentlemen and one of my favorite guys that always never pans out, Freak Tariq Evans. I love that guy, who I really hope he gets 27 of those minutes because he would be a nice little fantasy value on this team. Where are the rest of these minutes going, and where's that fantasy value coming from, if any, on the rest of this team?
Well, and we can talk about maybe this by position or where we can kind of speak to this. I'm not super into this team in a lot of senses, but especially at the big men, I mean, you got guys like, okay, we're going to assume JaMychal Green comes back.
I think we have to.
And maybe gets 30 minutes. And so he's interesting, right?
Okay, yeah, he's young. He's had some flashes. He can shoot the occasional 3.
And in 27 minutes, total value we're talking now, he was 113th ranked last year in 8 category leagues, but he just
okay.
He just doesn't do anything that's anything. I mean, he had 9 points a game. He had 0.7 threes. He had 7 rebounds, 1.1 assists, half a steal, half a block. It's like there's nothing sexy there. So
I will give him this. He's young, and he's not got a giant gaping hole in his game, so he has the ability to hit some threes. His free throw percentage for the year was 80%. That's really nice. He shot 50% from the field. That's really nice. Now, granted, these are really low volume, but everything else here is he didn't have a ton of games where he didn't light it up from the 3-point arc at really any period of time during the season. He could maybe approach a steal a game at some point, but I don't think he's going to reach a block. And coming from your a guy who's supposed to be playing the 4. And sorry, he's not that young. I always forget JaMychal Green's not that young. He's 27.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't see him taking any huge leap, and so I mean he's going to get more minutes, so that his production is going to go up a little bit. But it's another guy I'm not like super excited to pick, even in the late rounds of my draft. It's like, well, he's going to get minutes and give me some rebounds and stuff. But
so yeah, where are the rest of these minutes going? Are there any other big men who are going to get legit minutes on this team?
I mean, are you into any of these young guys? Davis, Jarrell Martin. I mean, I think we know what.
No?
That's what I mean. It's like.
Are any of them like relatively deep league relevant even?
Well, someone's going to have to get the minutes, and I guess that was kind of my point. Is
Brandon Wright's always efficient. I mean that's nothing sexy at all, but it's something that he's always been good at.
But I mean, he's never healthy, right?
No.
So
I guess they have to go small, or they have to play a lot of Marcus Gasol.
But they have no wings. mean, what
That's
wing
a-
are you going to throw out there? James Ennis or
That's
Chandler
another
Parsons who
issue.
can play 5 minutes a game?
Let's jump into the Chandler Parsons conundrum. Chandler Parsons, after a ton of injuries, has pretty much fallen off the planet. A torn meniscus. He was a guy who at one point was with Dallas and in Houston looked like he was going to be a very good fantasy type of player. His last year in Houston, which was a very long time ago, the 13-14 season, he was averaging almost 6 rebounds and 4 assists a game, which got everyone real wet in the pants. But then once he was basically broke his leg off, hasn't been able to remotely look like a basketball player. He is healthy for this season. Is he worth drafting in a standard league?
I better have my puke bucket, but yeah. I mean,
Really?
okay.
I guess I'm willing to take a flyer on him.
That's where I'm
especially
at.
because they have nowhere else to go.
Will I draft him in a standard league? The answer to that question is probably no, because this guy, I don't know if it's his charming good looks, like you like to say, or what. Someone always wants to poop their pants for this guy, right? Always wants to get him super early, and
I mean, this might be the year that's not true. He has burnt too many people. He's seen too many injuries, and he's fallen off a cliff. He looked absolutely miserable in the 34 games he played last year.
Maybe you know the answer to this. Why did the minutes never really go up?
I have no idea. I don't think he was. I'm not sure if he was healthy or they were just like, you're that bad. And if he's that bad, I don't know why the minutes would go up this season, even if he was the only relevant guy on the team. Like, why not just give the minutes to 20 minutes to him, 20 minutes to James Ennis, 20 minutes to Ben McLemore?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess in the sense that if I can get him in the last round, or this is another guy who, I mean, take a flyer on him just because we've seen some greatness, right?
Yeah. We've seen someone who could be a top 100 player, top 80 player. I just don't. It's worth a shot at the end of your draft. But would you rather take a shot on him or Ben McLemore, who is apparently injured again? I believe he
just got hurt. He's gonna miss 12 weeks. Yeah,
broke his toe. Gonna miss 12 weeks. That puts him probably coming back in November.
Yeah, he's gonna miss like the first month.
That's okay. That's not great, but also not the end of the world.
Well, that pretty much eliminates him from a standard league, I think, in the sense that he's going to be a fringe guy anyways. And so if you're not going to get production for the first month, now in a roto league, that's a little bit different, but in head to head, I mean, why miss the first month on somebody who's a fringe guy when you could just have another fringe guy?
Yeah, you could just get him off the waivers once he comes back, or right. If you even want to do that. Is he going to play? I mean, let's say he plays 30 minutes a game. I'm not even sure.
Ben McLemore or Chandler Parsons?
Ben McLemore.
I've been a fan of Ben McLemore's, and then he totally pooped his pants last.
He's terrible. He's not a quality player. I lost you.
So that's just because
I lost your feed.
All right.
So I can go with. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
All right, okay,
cool. So yeah, I'll start with Ben McLemore is a terrible player. So yeah, Ben McLemore is a terrible player.
I was actually kind of in on Ben McLemore after that 14-15 season where he got 12 points a game and looked like he might be something, getting a steal a game. The last 2 years have been bad. He could only get 20 minutes on a Kings team that wasn't great, and he was 23 years old, and they were rebuilding most of the season and looking to play young guys. So he's kind of worn out his welcome for me.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to my whole point about guys who don't only do a couple things, but just don't really put up the counting set. Like someone who averages 1 assist a game, and 1.5 3-pointers a game just doesn't cut it anymore. Just the league has gotten too good. There are too many quality players in the league. Where someone who gets 13 points and a 3.5, but can't muster more than 1 assist a game, isn't relevant anymore in a standard league. Where that guy might have been someone you stream even, and at this point, maybe you stream that kind of guy if he's available and he's open. But I bet you there's better people to stream on your waiver.
Yeah, I mean, in a 12-team league, he's a streamer probably with those statistics, and he maybe clings on your roster if you got a lot of injuries and that kind of. I mean, like there's leagues sometimes they got like 3-4 IR spots and your team's really ravaged, whatever. He might cling on your roster for a little while, but I mean, you're not jumping up and down. You're not trying to trade for the guy or anything. Like it's just he's back in value.
This is the problem for this team is that the minutes have got to go somewhere, and even minutes with Ben, really no one's really getting excited about that.
Okay,
at all.
Let's do this. I'm excited for this. Okay, we're gonna do lightning round. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna say the name. You tell me what size league before you even want to have this guy. Okay, so like, don't say, oh, I'd take like where you take a shot on him. So obviously, if we say like Andrew Harrison, you're not going to take a shot on him like a 10 or 12 team league.
No.
It'd be like a 30 team league. I don't know. So assuming there's like 13 roster spots, standard roster, okay, I'm going to run through some of these bench, lower end type guys, and you tell me what type league you take a shot on them. I'm going to start off with Wade Baldwin.
Ugh, Wade Baldwin. I mean, the minutes got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean I'm thinking this guy's the backup point guard.
Yeah, at the very least, he's going to play. I still don't think I would take him until a 14-team league though.
I'm actually with you there. I don't think he's
bad.
Okay, Wayne Selden, who ESPN is reporting is the starting shooting guard.
Wayne Selden, who is not going to be the starting shooting guard.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but that's what they say.
That. 20-team league?
I'm with you there. I'm not really interested. Even a 20-team league, I'm not really.
League?
I'm not super interested in Wayne Selden. I think I'm taking a rookie who's not going to play at all before I'm taking Wayne Selden.
Yeah, I'll just look at a rookie on my bench. I'll take Terrence Ferguson.
Tyreek Evans.
Ooh. Now, that's my kryptonite.
That one's my Huckleberry. If it's a standard league, that's the guy I'm going for. Just hoping he can get like 27 minutes and do some stuff.
Taking him in a 10-team league. I don't care.
I'm with you.
Doing it.
Troy
Who?
Troy Daniels.
Troy Daniels.
He was somewhat relevant for a minute last year.
Yeah, he was relevant for at least 2 games. 16 team league. He's not. I mean, I guess these guys have to play, right?
Someone's got to. I mean,
maybe I would take a flyer on him in a 14-team league.
I'm definitely going for him over Wayne Selden, but between him and Ben McLemore, who do you think gets the minutes?
I think Ben McLemore.
So do I. That's what
they made the move for him.
All right. So where did we land on Chandler Parsons? We were both saying he's kind of 12-team league. Maybe take a flyer on him.
I think you take a flyer on him at the end of even maybe a 12-team league, a 10-team league if you really don't care.
All right, James Ennis. What this fella?
Ugh. This is is this the worst fantasy team?
Yes. This is the barf bucket.
This is a trash, just all around trash fantasy team. And which means I feel like this team's going to be pretty trash in real life too. Probably like a 14-team league for James Ennis, 16.
Any interest in either Dylan Brooks or Roddy Zagorak?
I don't even. I got an idea. Let's not talk about the Memphis Grizzlies anymore.
But see, okay. There's one last point I guess I was trying to make with this whole game.
No, go ahead.
One of these men one of these ugly, ugly men is going to have some value in your standard leagues in the sense that it's probably only going to be streaming value because I don't think any of them are great permanent producers, but one of these guys is going to get some big minutes.
Someone's going to get 28 minutes who got 13 last year. Someone is going to get
and
30 minutes who got 20 last year.
It's stream on and off your roster value, but it's going to be worth it. I mean, it's going to be worth streaming on and off.
Outside of Tariq Evans, I don't think any of these guys approach standard league value unless something weird happens and there's an injury and they're getting 33 minutes a game no matter what. And maybe even a couple of them approach it, but like no one's going to be like the breakout star of the year.
Well, no, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's gonna be like in a head-to-head league streaming value, right? Like I pick this guy up when he plays and I cut him when he doesn't. But I mean, especially if Chandler Parsons goes down, which at this point, aren't we saying he misses a few games at some point?
No, I mean I think it's 100% chance.
Like, I mean, Tyreek,
who's gonna play then? I mean, that's the reason to watch this team and pay attention to this team, right?
Especially
is that reason only, is that there's going to be injuries, and then who the hell is going to play on this team?
Right, and this is one of the preseason teams I'm kind of trying to follow just to see what the hell they're doing here. Like, who are you playing? When are you playing them? What are you playing them? Because someone's going to get some value at some point during the season, and I'm not going to be excited to pick them up off my waiver wire, but I'm going to probably do it, at least when the games that they play in the head-to-head league.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we definitely should circle back on this team once we look at how their rotation actually is going to exist and who's actually on their damn team.
And here's a crazy thought. If JaMychal Green doesn't come back,
who's the four?
Brendan Wright, Jarrell Martin, Deontay Davis, James Ennis. One of these guys is a starter.
Oof. That's pretty abysmal.
That's a scary thought, but maybe that's some value there. I mean, so it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to follow this team. They're kind of one that they're not set in stone yet, and I think we're going to be talking about for the next 2 months until we get to the regular season, in the sense that, especially if Chandler Parsons goes down. Imagine if Chandler Parsons goes down in a preseason game.
Yeah, this team could go any which way for basically the entire season. So we're going to have to keep them on watch. Let's move on to a team that's eerily similar. They're like the better Memphis Grizzlies when you look at their roster makeup for fantasy. The Portland Trailblazers, they have two obvious, amazing guards who are fantasy relevant, and a bunch of guys who are a lot more relevant than the bottom half of the Memphis Grizzlies, but still, those borderline fringe players. And let's just go ahead.
Oh, you're underselling a few men on this team, but we'll get to it.
I might be underselling, but there's one, at least one that I think I'm going to enjoy quite a bit. They did add Andrew Nicholson. They drafted Zach Collins. They lost Alan Crabb because they did not want to pay that much money for that man. And that
was the trade, man. Nicholson.
Oh yeah, you're right. Never mind. Yeah. They traded with the Nets. I forgot about that. I forgot that was a trade. I thought they just didn't want to pay the money, but no, they had to get rid of that contract. That's what happened. Well, they didn't want to pay the money. I was kind of right. And they waived my favorite, like sixth favorite name to say, Festus Ezeli. But basically, this team they're rolling it back.
We got to pour one out for Festus because I think he's done now.
It's too bad. He had his run.
But I mean, I wrote an article when they signed him about how even if he didn't play a minute, it was a good contract in the sense that he produced some really, really good advanced metrics, like off the charts. Like he was rated as a real good player.
I feel like he's an eye test kind of guy too. Whenever he's on the court, you notice he's on the court. He's a part of plays. He makes tough shots, and you're like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
And I mean, I was always a fan of watching him play, and those knees are shot. And because they waived him and he got that cheap contract to begin with because of the knees being bad, I'm thinking no one takes a shot on him at all.
That's a shame. That's too bad. Do you want to start with the bottom half, or do you want to knock out the top half right away?
Well, let's talk about the whole guard situation as a whole
Sure.
here, because I mean we have the big two, which okay, I'm probably picking Lillard in the second round.
Yeah, Dame. I can't get enough of Dame Lillard. I don't. I think he could even take a step up this year. It's a possibility anyway. The guy's amazing. The guy is an elite scorer. He could, if he really really tried, he could probably approach those Westbrook type numbers if he wanted to, but and make quite a few more threes. Just no blocks coming out of this guy though. But yeah, the guy's in his prime, and he is gonna strike the iron while it's hot.
And his running mate is probably also in the second, maybe slips to the third round, right?
I think he's a little bit more of a third rounder type of guy. He's like a Dame. It's really weird. He's like Dame Lillard light. It's very strange. I briefly had them both on my team, and it was weird to see how like when one of them has a great game, the other one has like a sort of good game, and their sort of good game is still kind of good, and then they'll switch, and then they'll switch back, and then there'll be like 3 games with one. It was just like it's this weird symbiotic relationship that they have, where if one of them is not Dame Lillard, the other one becomes Dame Lillard, but just Dame does it more.
So, I mean, we can get that out of the way, right? There's that. I don't see much change in there. I don't see a ton of improvement. I mean, maybe there's incremental gains or losses either way.
I think both of them have the potential to be better. Are you worried about?
But not.
Let's go with CJ McCollum. Nothing like, suddenly they're a top 5 player better.
Right. And they're not suddenly going to be below a top 30 or 40 player. It's like they kind of are what they are.
Yeah, I do want to throw out that CJ McCollum shot 48% last year, which is quite a bit above his averages for his career. Are you worried about that at all?
Oh, I'm a little bit worried about that, and that's why I probably I'm gonna not be the one owning him. I think he probably goes in the second round, and I'm probably more in that mid third, late third round range with him.
Yeah, I think he's a very popular name. He'll go earlier than his ceiling, I would assume. I'm a little worried because he's on a few of my keeper teams. Let's get to the rest of this team. Who do you want to start with?
So, I kind of want to talk about Evan Turner now because
wow, that is not where I thought you were going.
Well, here's why. Right? Are they going to play Shabazz Napier at all?
I mean, there's a possibility, but I highly doubt it. I don't think he's more talented than quite a few of these guys on this.
I don't think at all. Are they going to play Pat Connaughton at all?
I hope not.
So then Evan Turner is now the backup point and shooting guard.
Pretty much. He is taking Allen Crabbe's spot.
And Evan Turner is now the backup small forward because they're not going to play Jake Layman. So you kind of have the 3 starters, and then Evan Turner is the backup at all 3 positions. So are you interested in Evan Turner?
I think that's a fairly good question. I don't know if I am. And this is why, because Evan Turner has had a couple of very fantasy relevant portions of seasons, but overall, he's been kind of an okay, you know what you're kind of getting type of player. He has obviously the occasional game where it's like, oh man, that guy almost got a triple double, but I think at this stage in his career, which he should be right in the middle of his prime, he doesn't hit threes. He's going to give you fairly good rebounds and assists, but he doesn't really do anything else. And he's not a great shooter. And even with, let's say he plays 30 minutes a game. Let's say they rotate him from the 2 to the 3, and he plays a full 30 minutes a game. He could be standard league relevant, I think, but we're talking about the end of your draft sitting on your bench standard league relevant. He's a great streamer and actually someone I think should be owned in head-to-head leagues because
you could just sit him on the bench. You could stream him every single game. You don't have to worry about, hopefully he's on the waiver wire in case he gets a hot. But overall, no, I don't think I don't think he's a breakout candidate.
And I'm gonna read you a stat line because I think he's gonna get pegged, especially if people are saying this guy's gonna get 30 minutes. He's gonna get pegged as like someone to draft.
Sure.
I think
a lot of people remember him hanging out in Boston and getting like ridiculous stat lines over there.
But okay, he had one. I'm gonna read you a stat line from Indiana, okay, where he got 30 minutes. 14 points.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
All right. That's nothing to
0.6 3-pointers a game. 5 rebounds.
Okay. That's pretty good for a guard.
This is okay, right?
So someone you can put in your 2 spot is pretty good.
0.8 steals. 0.1 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the good free throw and usual horrendous field goal percentage of 42.6 or 42.5%.
Okay.
You want to guess where that ranked?
It's not great. I would say right around where all the other guys who do a few things but aren't that great, which seems to be my theme for this year. Right around that fringe area of like 120.
It was 192nd in per game value.
Ooh.
2013, 2014.
That is worse than I thought.
Because there were almost no blocks. Now, last year he did get 0.4 in 25 minutes. So maybe that's a little better. Maybe he gets up to a steal. Maybe he's a little better, but like you're saying, he's going to be 120, 130, 140, 150. And so if guys are clamoring to pick this guy, I just don't see the ceiling. And I think if you're picking him at 120 or 130, you're getting 120 or 130 value. And
yeah, I'm 100% taking him at the end of my draft instead of Chandler Parsons, or anyone on Memphis. Really, like I would much rather have Evan Turner.
See, in a standard league, I'd almost rather have Chandler Parsons because I think the ceiling is a lot higher for Chandler Parsons.
That's
whereas
true.
That dude, you're getting what you get.
You know what you're getting from Evan Turner,
right? And in a standard league, because the waiver wire options are so plentiful, I want to shoot the moon a little bit. And then when Chandler Parsons gets hurt, I can just say, piss off Chandler Parsons. I'll pick up a similar Evan Turner. Maybe it is Evan Turner. Maybe it's somebody who just has similar value to Evan Turner.
Yeah. I don't think it's someone you can bank on to basically win you your league at all. Even if he does get extended minutes. Someone I actually like to get more minutes on this team is Mo Harkless.
Oh, this is my Huckleberry too. This is another man.
Yeah, the problem is we this is going to be interesting drafting against you because we like the same people. Mo Harkless, I assume if you're like me who's played fantasy for a very long time, you were probably on Mo Harkless during the Orlando days, looking at what a tantalizing
talk about one of the worst
prospects.
trades in NBA history, maybe.
It's up there until the Bulls decided to trade anyone over the last year and a half, and I think they might have got him. But Mo Harkless, who played 28, 29 minutes a game last year, he's one of those guys where you look at a stat line and you go, "This is boring." And I kind of just went off on how if you just are mediocre at a few things that you're not very great. Well, he's mediocre at everything, which makes you, pretty decent.
But see, I'll fight you a little bit on that in the sense that there's a few categories in tandem that make him not that mediocre.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at. When you look at Evan Turner, there's a few holes, and he's mediocre everywhere else, and you're like, ugh. All right, those holes bring you down. There's no holes in Mo Harkless's game.
Right. And I mean, the worst thing is the free throw percentage, but
Sure.
he shoots 1.6 attempts a game. So
you don't really get affected by that. But he never turns the ball over, which if you care about turnovers, which you should. I don't know if people saw this, but Josh Lloyd, the fantasy podcast godfather, he is railing against having the turnover stat, and I had to tell him he's incorrect. A turnover is a loss of possession, and that is kind of a big deal. And so I'm sure Josh Lloyd, who does know a ton about fantasy basketball, might have something to say about that. But I think it's an important stat.
It is an important stat in the NBA, and it all depends on what you're playing fantasy for. Okay. Now, here's something that's always going to happen, right? The guys who have the ball in their hands the most are going to turn the ball over the most, relatively speaking, right? I mean, you just have a lot more opportunities to turn the ball over. I mean, that just makes sense.
And that makes perfect sense. And one of his arguments was, look at the guys who were MVP last year. They set records for turnovers. They're over 5 turnover, both Westbrook and Harden. If you averaged what they averaged, let's say, and that was kind of my counter argument, if Derrick Rose averaged a triple-double last year, which if he wasn't injured, he probably would have, but he only had 2.5 turnovers a game, my guess is that they probably would have given Derrick Rose the MVP last year.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not saying they don't matter, but I don't.
They definitely matter. It's a loss of possession.
But we talk about this all the time, right? There's defensive stats, so to speak, in fantasy, but they don't really measure how good of a defender you are. I mean, you could just be a guy playing the damn passing lane the whole game and get a steal or a steal and a half a game, but not be able to guard your man a lick.
Yeah, that is a fairly good point, that steals are not a representation of good defense.
And you got guys who, I mean, Julius Randle, for example, right? You see him fighting his own damn teammates for rebounds. Like, is that really helping his team? I mean, so I don't know that fantasy is a great reflection of how awesome a player he is in real life. And so, I mean, I don't really have a fundamental issue with whatever league settings you want to play, but I guess we shouldn't delude ourselves that, oh, these are the perfect fantasy stats to figure out who's really the best player in the NBA. It's like you're just using a set of numbers to define players' value and have some fun.
Oh, certainly. And however people want to have fun, I'm not going to tell them they should not. If people want double doubles and triple doubles and all the other nonsense that makes leagues not fun, for me, if that makes leagues fun for you, great. Go do it. Have 20 categories. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying. As long as we can all agree on, if there's 10 of us, 12 of us, 20 of us, if we can all agree this is how we want to play that way. Yeah, I'm not telling you how to play. I can tell you how I like to play.
Yeah, and I do like that Josh is looking into saying, you know what, I don't like this stat. It's not a good representation. It's a negative. What is a better stat to show positivity? Is it, separating the rebounds, offensive and defensive rebounds, and nothing crazy. Like, he's not going out on a limb and saying, all right, let's do triple doubles and plus minus. Plus, anyone who puts plus minus in their categories, I will say they're wrong. It's so arbitrary. Do not use plus minus in a category. I will tell you that you're a terrible person for putting plus minus as a category. But, so actually, I'm going against everything I said about not telling people what to do. I'm telling them what to do now.
I guess my point there was that, and my other point is just whatever's fun, man. Like, the only thing I'll say about turnovers is it does kind of try to bring back the value of some of the best players, right? Like, it kind of sort of evens the playing field for those guys who get the absolute top picks, in the sense that those guys are going to tank turnovers, and it kind of smushes the gap between the top players and the rest of the field.
Yeah, if you look at where Westbrook and Harden ranked without turnovers, it's fairly absurd. If you look at with turnovers, there's I think 4 people above them in overall 9 count rankings, and I do like that turnovers do level the playing field, and like you're saying, it's personal preference. If that's your personal preference, who knew Mo Harkless would be so controversial of a player to talk about?
Well, I guess my point being is what you just said right there, right? It doesn't give the person who gets the number 1 pick that big of an advantage, whereas sometimes in other leagues it does, right? If you just played a points league, like it was just how many points could you score a game? Having one of those very top picks would be a huge advantage.
Absolutely.
And so I guess that's just kind of a way to just smush the value of everyone closer together, which is a way to play. I mean, whatever you like.
That's the way I like to play. It's a complete, and that's also, I like to zig when people zag. Most people punt turnovers, and I will punt turnovers if my first two picks kind of tell me to. But if not, if my first two picks, if I get Chris Paul, who is one of the best point guards who to assist to turnover ratio kind of guys, which is another category that could be considered instead of turnovers, but at least that comes into play. But yeah, Chris Paul, if you end up getting him in the first round, then someone like Mo Harkless, who never turns the ball over, or Otto Porter, who never turns the ball over, they become a lot more valuable, and they can win you a category, which can win you a week.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I say one of my favorite things about Mo Harkless, and something I'm excited to see this year, is if he can push the steals and the blocks a little bit higher. I think he's probably in line for a little bit of a bump in playing time. I think he gets to 30 this year on this team. I just don't really see. I mean, how many minutes can Evan Turner play? How many minutes can Lillard play? How many minutes McCollum can play? I really only see those four guys playing for 3 spots.
Yeah, and Mo Harkless isn't sexy, but he's super consistent. He's always getting you 10 points. And there's always a steal and a block on the board. And so some nights he gets you 3, and sometimes he gets you 0, but you're going to average out your block and steal. If he could just get a few more assists, that would be great. I don't think it's going to happen. He's only 24 though, and to me that's kind of insane because I feel like I've been thinking about Mo Harkless for at least 5 or 6 years, but apparently not. Maybe I have, but Mo Harkless being 24 doesn't make sense to my brain.
So relatively speaking, where is he shaking up on your board? Is he a?
I'm popping him up a little bit. I think he could be a top 100 player if he's playing 30 minutes a game.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of in that 8th, 9th round value. So I'm starting to look at him probably in the 8th, and I'm hoping he kind of slides into the 9th. Or I might even. I mean, it depends on my team and what I need and what kind of league it is. Obviously, I mean, it depends on if turnovers are counting or not. But I could even see maybe taking him in the 7th.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would go that high, but I'm certainly not. I'm not against it, but I think Mo Harkless being a very unsexy name, you can get him in the 9th,
and that's what I'm hoping for. And maybe, and this is the kind of crazy guy I am. I like just sometimes push that limit, and especially if I think, who's thinking about Portland in this draft?
You got to know your audience.
I might be able to sneak him in the 10th. And I mean, if I can sneak him in the 10th, I'm doing a dance maybe.
So let's talk about a guy on this team who's you're not going to sneak in the 10th, which also could be a good catchphrase for you. Jusuf Nurkic.
Yusuf, yes. Come on, get it right.
No, it's Jusuf.
The J is silent, my friend.
It's Yusuf. God, these Eastern Europeans and their silent vowels. I'm sure they feel the same way about English. Jusuf Nurkic. I'm glad you're here to correct all my. I could barely read English, so
See, reading. I just cheat. I don't really know how to say the names until I just hear other people say them on the broadcast, and then I'm just repeating what I hear.
I'm glad you listen. Once he was traded from Denver to Portland last year, and this really kind of pissed me off because I definitely took a flyer on Nurkic in a lot of my leagues at the beginning of the season, in a lot of drafts. And I knew there was this type of player in him, and the whole sharing of minutes between Jokic and Nurkic is just it wore me down. It wore me down, and I probably dropped him in almost every single league I had him stashed. And then he got traded, and I probably only got him back in like one of those leagues. This is going to be everyone's. Oh man, I got a great sleeper lined up this year that everyone is already lined up as well. You idiot! There's always these guys. They are the number one sleeper on every single article on the internet, and people come into these drafts acting like they have like a hidden gem. That's 100% who this is going to be.
I will give our friend Mark Roberts credit. I've been hearing about this guy since I swear since he was drafted that this guy was going to be a fantasy stud, and it finally came
with Mark probably before that.
It came to fruition last year, obviously. I'm gonna super interested. Okay, here's a question for you, and this has kind of been something I don't think too much about this stuff yet, but I think we're gonna be thinking about it in the future. Is where does the market put this guy?
Yeah, and that's actually a fairly good question. It's probably one of the more relevant questions when you're approaching a draft. Right. Is you can look at everybody's rankings, and we're eventually going to publish rankings, and you can average those all out. But what really matters is where in the world is the market putting these people? And it'd probably be a good we probably do 1,000 podcasts on this topic, but the main rankings, your ESPN and your Yahoo rankings, there's always value to be gotten out of those, because you're usually drafting against people who after a couple of rounds don't really know where these people actually rank. And some of the variations in those rankings are absolutely wild. And I think this will probably be one of those where for some reason the fantasy experts at the major publications of fantasy rankings have never heard of, probably because they're calling him Justif Nurkic. And they're like, I never heard of that dude. Never heard of that guy. The market's going to be, for the people in the know, the market's going to be high on this guy. Too high.
Too high. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. I mean, the numbers were great in Portland.
Absolutely. And I think they're going to be just as good this year. I really do. I think this guy has legit talent.
Well, and
I don't think he is a Jokic type of talent, obviously.
But Portland used him like Plumlee, which was that was my big question: was Portland going to use him like they used Plumlee?
Yeah,
and
as a facilitator, and they kind of did.
And he got three assists a game in 30 minutes, which maybe it wasn't the 4 or 4.5 that Plumlee was getting, but they used him in a similar way, and he got 3 assists, which is big. I mean, that's huge for his fantasy value.
And now he's got a whole off season to play within their system, to learn their system. And
all right, big man either or, let's do it.
Is this a new segment?
Yep, big man either or.
Big man either or.
All right,
hit me.
I'm gonna start high, okay? Because you're saying you want him up there.
I love getting high, so let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna start with his former teammate Nikola Jokic.
That's very easy. Jokic is much better.
All right, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert is much better.
Hassan Whiteside.
I'm not a fan of Hassan Whiteside. And that's because I play in roto leagues. Let's say I'm not playing in a roto league. I'm playing a head-to-head league. I'm going Hassan Whiteside.
Let's see here. I'm assuming you're going to take your boy Marc Gasol.
I love that big oaf.
All right, how about Brook Lopez? We getting in the range now?
Ooh, we are getting in the range. I'm kind of interested in Brook Lopez this year. We haven't gotten to the Lakers, but he only averaged 29 minutes in Brooklyn last season. And, I could see him averaging a couple more minutes in Lakerland, and also, being the exact same type of player. This is a toss-up for me, I'd say. This is probably where I'm getting to where I like Nurkic. I'd probably take Brook Lopez because I'm more confident in Brook Lopez repeating what he has done in the past.
I think I'm with you on that. I think I'd probably rather have Brook Lopez too. But I think that's kind of where I'm drawing my line. I mean, obviously you got guys like Porzingis.
I'd much rather have Porzingis because I
just think ahead there still. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a guy I didn't say, but
I'd rather have Turner.
Right, and those were some of the guys I left out just because I think they shoot a little more threes and do a little bit different stuff.
Yeah, they're not conventional big men.
But I mean, like I'm taking him over a guy like Serge Ibaka, I think, and a guy like
definitely
Al Horford. I mean, I think I'm probably over Nurkic over Horford. I mean,
Al Horford is not sexy anymore, and I do like the fact that people don't think he's sexy anymore. I think you can get a good deal on Al Horford, but I think that's probably where the issue comes.
So
I think Nurkic is a sexier name than Al Horford now. And Al Horford
wow, really?
I really,
because I was thinking like Horford's probably in the 4th, 5th round, and Nurkic is probably in the 5th, 6th round. I was actually thinking Nurkic would probably go a little bit below Horford. But if you're saying Horford's going to go lower, I'd probably rather have Horford.
I think a lot of people were disappointed in Horford. Horford's been, a top 20 type of guy, and he dropped into that 40 range. Mm-hmm. And people probably see him dropping even harder and playing, conservative minutes. And mm-hmm. I think Nurkic and Horford could easily finish ahead of Nurkic, but Nurkic could be that good. I mean, like, to me, that's probably actually where my line is. Brook Lopez doesn't excite me, but Horford, Nurkic is my real toss-up.
And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, going forward. I love to play in auction leagues. Like, given the choice, I'm playing in an auction over anything. And Nurkic is the type of guy you never get in an auction, right? Because someone's always going.
It only takes. I say this in all my auction leagues. It only takes one asshole just to bid up your guy.
And Horford's the guy you get because no one wants Horford.
No, everybody's like $8, and you're like, yeah, that's I'll do $9, yeah. And everybody's like, man, I'm saving my money for Nurkic, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend $25 on Nurkic. I'm gonna spend $30 on Nurkic.
Get him no matter what.
And so
I bet you there's gonna be. I would love, we should go look once the mock drafts start. And it's hard to do auction mock drafts. Like let's look at the real drafts because the auction mock drafts don't ever represent anything, which is a shame. But I bet you there's going to be plenty of leagues where DeMarcus Cousins goes for lower, if not somewhat significantly lower than Jokic.
Oh wow, that's just a mistake.
That's a mistake. I completely agree, but I bet you there's going to be a decent amount. I bet you those numbers are very close together.
And here's the thing, okay? I mean, everyone's always on the Jokic bandwagon, and Jokic is an awesome player to watch. Is Jokic going to average 27 points a game like DeMarcus Cousins did last year? I mean, and maybe DeMarcus Cousins can't average that with Anthony Davis in total for the whole season.
I think he can.
But so do I. I mean, I think if
Cousins is going to get his, I promise you that.
And, I mean, that's a big separator from the maybe 20 that Jokic is going to average. And this is where, like, Jokic, I love Jokic. I love to watch Denver. I love to watch Jokic play. I almost never get him in fantasy because someone's always on that, you know what.
Oh, yeah. They're always on it. I mean, that's always the issue with these type of guys. And I think Nurkic is the new Jokic when it comes to everyone's favorite sleeper. And you're not going to get him you're going to get him at ceiling value at best. And, honestly, ceiling value actually might be pretty solid because I think Nurkic is going to reach his ceiling. I do like him that much. But
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the player. But
if you're looking for
value, in the second round, I'm not.
No. Definitely not. I think, if you can take him in the 4th or 5th round, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. This position is the one I'm super interested in.
Yeah.
And I'm super interested in your thoughts in because there's a good amount of minutes open up here at this. I mean, there's obviously all the minutes at the 4 and some backup minutes at the 5. And there's a lot of names that are kind of sexy and a lot of names that I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a couple names that aren't so sexy, like Myers Leonard, which is, just one of the worst names in the NBA. He's all right. He's a pretty good.
But he had us
Basketball.
excited for a quarter of a second there in the sense that he was going to be one of the very few big men who shot threes, and then
Now everyone shoots threes.
every big man shot threes.
He's
And then,
literally a nobody. If he would have came in the league like 2 years before, should have stayed at Illinois, Myers.
and he is the maybe absolute worst defender in the NBA.
Yeah, he's absolutely
That dude,
trash. I mean, he's very, very white, so it's hard for him to stay in front of people.
but that dude couldn't guard a tree.
No, he looks like a tree. Like
That's what I mean. If there was a 5 foot, if there was a 6.5 foot tree out there, he couldn't guard it.
you would be like, is that you guys? I think Myers Leonard's is outside. No, never mind. That is a tree. That is a 6 foot tree, 7 foot tree. Yeah, I don't know if I'm very excited. I know there's lots of minutes to go around with Al-Farouq Aminu and Noah Vonleh, but outside of deeper leagues or just, like 12, 14 team leags, I'm not sure I'm excited about either one of those guys.
I guess my question, okay, Aminu got his shot last year,
Sure.
and he proved not to
didn't
be
shoot
our
a shot.
Huckleberry, right? He was not our man.
He forgot to shoot his shot. He did not go see. He did not go see Hamilton. He refused to go when it was coming into Portland, which it probably hasn't. But Noah Vonleh is the one who probably has the most upside.
And that's what I'm asking. Are you going for the young guy Collins or Ed Davis or Swanigan or Vonleh to kind of step up there and get that close to 30 minutes and be relevant, or are you thinking
Not in any standard leagues. If I'm in a deeper league, I will maybe take a flyer on Noah Vonleh, depending on how far he is dropping in that draft. Because he is young, he does look like he has some legit talent. He could be a 1-and-1 type of guy if he's playing 30 minutes a game and improves his game just a little bit. But like I said, not terribly excited about either one of those guys.
now? See, if you're asking this observer, and you're telling me, gun to my head, I've got to take a shot on one of these Portland guys who's not Al-Farouq Aminu.
It seems like a very specific thing a burglar or what you do. You got to take one chance on these guys.
I'm either going.
Choose wrong.
I'm either going Ed Davis or I'm going Zach Collins over Noah Vonleh. I think I've seen this Vonleh train, man. It's not sexy.
It's not sexy, but it's got a full tank of gas. This is a bad metaphor, but there's a lot of coal in that fire in that Noah Vonleh train. I've seen the Ed Davis train. He is able to do standard league relevant things. I just don't know if Ed Davis can still do standard league relevant things anymore. And I don't think he's going to, going to get the amount of minutes in order to be relevant.
In that first 20 minutes, the dude averaged 7.4 rebounds a game and almost a block and 0.7 steals.
That is very true.
I'm bouncing on that train and thinking and riding it before I'm riding Noah Vonleh's.
And my guess is he is going to average right around 20 minutes a game and probably right around those stats. I don't think it gets any better for Ed Davis.
I'm with you,
he's one of those guys where you extrapolate that per 36 and you go, ooh, what could be? And
if
he never gets that.
Or Aminu gets hurt, I'd rather have Ed Davis than Vonleh. Even if you're going to say Vonleh plays more minutes, because
I think I would take Vonleh. I would take Vonleh. I like the chance.
All right, agree to disagree on that.
I will disagree to disagree. Wait a minute. Agree to disagree. So you like Noah, or you like Ed Davis? I like Noah Vonleh. They're both deeper league teams. I think we got Portland locked down. We'll have to see how the rotation pans out in the preseason. Let's move on to a team that I've never really hated.
I thought you were going to say a team I've never heard of.
A team I've never heard of. No, a team I've never really hated this team, and I think they have a special place in my heart for beating the the big three in their
Oh,
first
man.
superstar year, the Dallas Mavericks.
You keep trying to bring up all these tire fires, don't you?
There's a lot of tire fires this year, a whole bunch. We're not even like this is like tire fire number 2 or 3, and we have not even ventured into tire fire land. These are the tire fires outside of tire fire land. You're like, oh man, look at these ones. Wait till we get inside the damn theme park. There's some real tire fires in there. Why did I bring my kids to tire fire land? The fumes are toxic. Oh look, the bulls are the main attraction.
So the first thing we got to say is Nerlens Noel is not signed, but I can't imagine they eventually don't sign him.
Yeah, we do not know what's going to happen there, but I'm guessing they do sign him, and I'm guessing he does play more minutes than he played last year, and he is a standard league relevant type of guy, actually.
I'd even say he's probably. I mean, I'm not even saying he's back end. I think if he can get the minutes, I mean, if he can even get 26 or 28 minutes, I think he pushes for the top 100.
Oh, I think he's better than that if he's playing 26, 27 minutes a game.
And here's the nice thing: if
he's like a much better Ed Davis.
Could he push the top?
Like a way better Ed Davis.
And here's the thing: I actually think he could maybe push the top 50 in 28, 29 minutes a game. He got.
I don't know. He is young enough to improve.
1.3 steals and 1 block in 20 minutes a game. If he's getting 30, those numbers are starting to look kind of sexy.
Yeah.
No threes though. That I don't love that. You don't love that anymore.
Yeah. So unlike Ed Davis, when you look at the per 36, and you imagine Nerlens Noel playing actually 32 minutes a game, he's got the potential to actually play that. Like those minutes could come to him.
His one man listed below him on Dallas's depth chart on ESPN is Salah Mejri.
Woof. Is he the best fantasy prospect on this team?
It depends on what you mean by prospect, but
I mean, do you think does he have the highest ceiling on this team?
The highest fantasy ceiling for next season? Yeah.
For next season.
I mean, I think Dennis Smith Jr.'s got a really high ceiling in the sense that he looks really explosive, but I don't know that he ever reaches it. I mean, if we're going to talk about percent chances that he's a top 20 player, I mean, it's not a high percentage.
No, I think that's a generous ceiling, but I don't think Noel is going to reach his ceiling either, especially not next year. But as a prospect, and let's talk a little dynasty here, because we got some young guys on this team, along with old man Dirk, but we'll get to him. If you're in a dynasty draft, are you taking Dennis Smith Jr. first out of anyone on this team over Nerlens Noel?
Well, see, and we've talked about this maybe in the past, maybe we haven't.
Certainly.
And in most of my dynasty leagues, okay, there's some sort of penalty for keeping players.
Sure.
And so I don't want to dive on a Dennis Smith Jr. in the 3rd or 4th round, because I can't ever take a player at his ceiling, especially in a dynasty league when I'm probably going to have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years for him to reach that ceiling.
That's true. It's hard to get those rookies because the type of people who are attracted to dynasty leagues, I think, and it's actually good to see. I've seen a lot more people getting into dynasty leagues, keeper leagues, and I love it. I think that's great, and I think we should probably talk about dynasty leagues a little bit more on this podcast, because I play in a few. The problem is the people who are attracted to that are almost overtly obsessed with finding the rookie talent over actual talent.
Right. And
like Dennis Smith Jr. will get drafted before Melo. And it's like, I don't know if Dennis Smith Jr. will ever be better than Melo.
Well, and even guys like, they'll even throw away guys who were picked 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. And because this is a shiny new toy, they'll take him over insert name here. I'm drawing a blank kind of on a point guard, but a Kyrie Irving type or a legitimate
George Hill.
Yeah, Mike Conley, like all these guys, Kyle Lowry.
Mike
It's
Conley's
like,
a great example of people who would probably get taken after Dennis Smith Jr. in a dynasty league.
and especially Kyle Lowry, because he's getting older now. He's in his 32 or whatever. It's like, yeah, but what's Dennis Smith Jr.'s best case? Like maybe he's slightly better than Kyle Lowry in his best season.
Yeah, in 5 or 6 years.
And so I never play that way. So, I mean, if we're going to talk dynasty, I'm probably never getting Dennis Smith Jr. I love him. I think he's a good prospect. I think he starts for this team this year. I think he's not great.
But is he the best prospect on this team?
Yeah. He's the highest ceiling of anyone on this team, unless you're counting Dirk that's already past him.
Yeah, and I'm not counting Dirk, who is one of the greatest players of all time. Is he the starting point guard on this team?
Yeah.
Dennis Smith.
I mean, I
is he
think
playing 30 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, in the stretches he is. He probably is even maybe to start the season. They know Devin Harris and JJ Barea are backups. And
true, but there is a lot of guards to go around here. You have Seth Curry, you have Yogi Ferrell, you got JJ Barea, who is healthy. That's a lot of guards who have played significant minutes and can be trusted to a certain extent, a few of them anyway. And Dennis Smith Jr., are they just going to go all in and say, yeah, you're our future, you run this team, or are they going to go? And that's kind of my guess, because I don't think they're going to be very, very good.
Well, here's the thing, too. There's a lot of minutes to go around kind of on this team. I mean, sure, they got Harrison Barnes, but are they going to play Dorian Finney-Smith as a 3? So they're going to play some small ball units with like Wesley Matthews at the 3, or maybe they're even going to play 3 point guards together and do some weird lineups, because they just don't have any wing depth at all.
Yeah, I trust Carlisle to really figure it out, because he's great. He's one of the best coaches in the league. But you're right. Like, where are these secondary minutes? Who are they actually going to? And quite frankly, do we care? Because in a standard league, even these guys playing 30 minutes a game, none of them are terribly exciting. I mean, how many players on this team are getting should be drafted in a standard league is basically what I'm getting at. Harrison Barnes,
yep,
go for it. Nerlens Noel, go for it.
Yep.
Seth Curry,
nope.
Playing behind Dennis Smith Jr. now. What about Dennis Smith Jr.? I'd take a flyer on him.
Yeah, but I'm never gonna get him.
No, I mean, definitely not. He's another sexy name.
Right, 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like he's in my flyer territory, not I'm drafting him to be my second point guard territory.
Wesley Matthews.
Well, him and Dirk are the two, right? The two fence sitters at this point. Dirk, how many games is he going to play? I mean, he's going to be good when he plays, but he's not that sexy anymore. He doesn't shoot that good of a percentage anymore.
If I'm in a roto league, I would draft both of them. Not necessarily like I wouldn't draft both of them 100. Like, definitely going to draft both of those guys. But if they were around at the end of the draft, or kind of in there, I might take a flyer on somebody random. But if I've already taken that flyer, Dirk per game is still a top 100 player.
And that's completely different. Okay, if you're talking a roto league where it's
to roto leagues,
yeah, where it's I get his value and I can play the other 10-15 games he misses with somebody else. Sure, but to hold a guy on your roster, especially if there's limited IR spots like Dirk, who is going to miss one here and there, and I mean that's kind of a big loss of games if you miss 20 games from a spot.
Yeah, if you're in a head-to-head league, I don't think Dirk is worth it. I would spot start him probably, or stream him if you can, if he's around.
But see, he's one of those sexy guys who's gonna get picked up too. Like,
you think people are still on Dirk?
Oh yeah, I mean those transcendent names. I think, look at Kobe last year.
I think Kobe's actually draftable this year, so his average.
Did you see on ESPN that he's got an ADP?
Yeah, I did. It's amazing.
And I'm like, what?
Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe Kobe's coming back.
Did people know he didn't play last year? Or?
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, let's throw some shade. Sorry, ESPN. who are you hiring to do these fantasy rankings? Like Kobe Bryant is in them. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's not like Kobe's been saying, "Oh, I might come back."
No, not at all. Unless they know something we
He's
don't.
like, "Yo, I'm retired, bro. I haven't played basketball in a minute. Like, I'm chilling. I got my millions."
How deep of a league do you need to be in to draft Yogi Ferrell?
I don't want Yogi Ferrell, man.
No, Yogi Ferrell.
Now, we had this debate last year, and I told you he's not an NBA player.
I think you're right. We did have this debate last year, and I think he is an NBA player. I think he's got some.
We've had this argument many times, my friend, and I'm set in my ways.
I think we're gonna have this argument once again once the season starts because I think he's gonna play some pretty decent minutes.
No,
okay. Backup guard, and I
will say this:
gonna be good.
And here's where I'm at with it. I think Wesley Matthews is going to slide down and play some 3. I also think Harrison Barnes is going to slide down and play some 4 because the bench options
100%.
On this team look like garbage.
They're very bad. Is there anyone on this bench that you're interested in? Dwight Powell, maybe?
I mean, I'm not interested in Josh McRoberts only because I don't think he can stay healthy. He had that one blip in the season where he got some assists and looked sexy, but I'm not even sure who Maximilian Kleber is.
That's not a person.
That does not sound like a person, does it?
No, that's not a person. You made that up.
So, I mean,
what are you looking at? It's not even on my depth chart.
That's on the ESPN one, man, my friend.
Well, that's why I'm not looking at their site. What team is Kobe Bryant on?
Huh?
What team is Kobe on?
He's on the what's one of those teams in the Big 3 called? I'm not sure.
The Big Baller Brand.
Yeah. So this way I'm breaking it down. You got Dirk and you got Nerlens, and you need some sort of backup player at that position. So Dwight Powell's probably going to be that guy and get some minutes, but I don't want him.
Yeah, even if he steps up and starts getting like 28 minutes a game, right? He's okay. Like he can hit a 3. I mean,
even in those games,
he gets some rebounds, he gets some steals and blocks. Like he's a little bit interesting to keep an eye on.
As a man who streamed this guy in the past, when he gets big minutes, I'm always left going, really? That was it? You got like 8 points and like 4 rebounds and like a steal?
Yeah, he is 26. So it's
not
like he's break out. This is as good as he's going to get.
So I do think that Harris, Barea, Yogi Ferrell, Seth Curry, these guys could get some minutes, and in those 14, 16, 20 team leagues could be somewhat relevant. But
I think we said Memphis. Did we say Memphis was the worst team we looked at? This is 100% the worst team we looked at.
This is another tire fire, my friend. I keep telling you, keep bringing up all these tire fires.
Well, there's nothing but tire fires in the NBA. If you guys want to hear about the non-tire fires, you go listen to the first team preview episode where we actually did Golden State and Houston, and we didn't do Cleveland because we're waiting for that Kyrie trade to actually happen. If that does not happen, we'll throw Cleveland in at the end.
We've got some fun teams to talk about, though.
There's a ton of good teams to talk about. The most interesting teams are usually the tire fires because that's where the unknown players come from and the unknown minutes come from, and they're harder to project, but that's where you're getting your value from. If you can figure out what players are actually going to play, you can get some guys late in the draft who will actually be, the 70th player, 60th player overall. And that's how you win your leagues. Anybody can draft correctly, whatever that means, in the first 2 rounds. It's the later rounds that win you your league.
ESPN lost my depth chart looking at when they put Jameer Nelson over Jamal Murray as the starting point guard for the Nuggets, for the record.
Does anyone know what's going on over there? Jeez, that's terrible. We will get to Jamal Murray at some point. Do you have anything else to say about Dallas? You cut out again.
Yeah, they broke my computer too. Those damn ESPN guys. I tried clicking off that Nuggets depth chart, and it just would not leave, man.
Froze your shit. Yeah.
Just eating my soul.
Jesus. All right, I'll say, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else to say about Dallas?
Good luck in Tire Fire City, Mavs fans.
Ooh, Tire Fire City sounds like when in Back to the Future 2, when they go to the future, I think they went to Tire Fire City, if I remember correctly. They actually go
Dude,
into
that's
the future.
awesome. I would love to go to Tire Fire City.
Well, the flights to Dallas are cheap.
I have never been myself.
Dallas, you know what? Dallas is a fine city. I just don't know if I would call it here. Shots fired at Dallas. That's too soon, JFK. Dallas isn't really a city. It is 6 fairly large, almost cities next to each other, which makes a huge metropolitan area, but it does not make a city. Sorry, Dallas.
That's controversial right there, my friend.
Get some better public transport and a real downtown.
Some guy from Dallas is going to be coming to Chicago and knocking on your door.
Feel free to come to a real city and see how public transport easily transports you to my house to come knock on my door. So feel free to do that, and then apologize once you see how easy that was. What's like to live in a real city?
Oh man, double shots fired there.
I'm taking. You know what? I'm going to be taking most of these cities down. So-called cities. You're next, Indianapolis.
Oh, hey, they lost their best player, man. Don't pick on them too much.
No, I'll have no remorse taking down the great so-called state of Indiana. Yeah, I'm not terribly worried about that incredibly difficult endeavor. Let's wrap it up there. I think we got through 3 more teams. We're basically just going to keep continuing to knock these bad boys out. If you want to hear some of the earlier teams we did, just go download some of the previous podcasts we did. We've done at least 8 teams before this. So if you want to catch up on our team previews,
we have done 11 teams, Mike.
11 teams.
We did 5 the first day. We've done 3 the last 2.
I was saying in the previous podcasts, and if you're listening to this podcast and got this far, then you've heard the 3 that we've already done. So there's 8. There's 8 left. I'm just mathing it on another level.
All right. Well, you weren't making any sense. I can say that.
I usually don't. Where can you find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Tire Fire City. No, that's not my thing.
That is a better handle than your actual handle. Tire Fire City.
That's gonna be my new thing. I'm just gonna be the man of tire fires. No, you can find me at Watsy4444.
Yeah, I think Detroit's gonna be mad about us calling another city Tire Fire City.
Dude, just wait till Orlando comes up. I'm gonna have to think of a new phrase.
Orlando is like a cesspool.
Orlando is
that
it's that burning dog turd on your porch, man. That's what it is.
Orlando is a special kind of crazy. Florida in general. Let's not get started. You can find me on Twitter if you like what you guys are hearing at Watch the Boxes. Feel free to DM us, tweet at us with your fantasy questions. I know there's a lot of keeper leagues spinning up right now and rookie drafts that might be going on. We're about there. September is when things start getting interesting, and the NBA season starts earlier this year, so you should start your fantasy planning.
We are less than 2 months away from opening night.
How exciting is that? We got a lot of stuff in store for you. So we're going to be doing some rankings podcasts, some strategy podcasts. So if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you download podcasts. The ratings really help people find our podcast, and better yet, tell a friend. I know if you're listening to this, you're in a league. Tell them about our podcast. You probably don't want to give up your competitive advantage, because I understand you're probably winning your league because you're listening to this podcast. but do it anyway.
Tell a hobo at least. I mean, come on.
Tell people on the street. Tell your parents. Tell your friends. Tell your aunt. Maybe she gets into fantasy basketball. If you know somebody, let them know about the podcast. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff leading up to the beginning of the season, and then the real fun begins. Tyler, got anything else to plug?
I'm just excited. I'm hoping next episode we talk about the Chicago Bulls.
No, I think that's saved for the main attraction of Tire Fire City.
The ultimate tire fires. I'm excited for that. No, I don't got anything, Mike.
All right, beautiful. I guess we'll just wrap that up. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.